bow, bow. Bow, 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 bow. What is up? That was such a hard song to intro in on, but we got a little bit of a situation. Alright, so right now, if you guys weren't watching, what were you doing? Because it should have been spent having fun with Julie, because Julie's streaming right now. So we're gonna chill and wait a little bit. We're gonna chat a little bit before, Julie prepares. I think she's coming on. She might be coming soon. I thought that was Cat. No. No. But we're gonna go ahead and go to just chatting, because we're gonna be waiting for Julie for a hot bit. Just because I think she is ending her stream right now. Let's rise to the floor. Let me see. Far to fall, now it's red. How are we doing, chat? There we go. This is a good song to come in on. Open doors, feeling fresh underneath. Now it's to ensure. Let's see real quick. Okay. How's everybody's days? My cheeks hurt from blowing up so many balloons, and now I'm in pain. Why were you blowing up balloons? Were you doing a party moment? Lights on, no she's not there. No, she's going to his flat. Okay. Are you okay? Yeah. Are you okay? Party for grad? Ooh. If it's yours, congratulations. If it's somebody else's, congratulations to that as well. College is hard? Very true. College sucks, but it's okay. I basically can't blow up balloons. Balloons are fun to blow up. It's just like, okay. Can you tell that my brain hurts? Also, my throat is kind of hurting right now, and I don't know why. So that kind of sucks for today, considering we're going to be reading TOMMYINNITS Clinic for Supervillains. So I hope you guys are excited. It's chapters 21 and 22. I believe. Yes. So, what is your favorite Wilbur song? Okay, the fact that you're trying to make me decide? Atrocious! I'm just kidding. I don't know. They're all so good. And Julie Berry! Hi, Julie. Thank you for the raid, my beloved. Thank you. I hope you had fun with your parkour. I apologize for not being able to join back in. The food took longer than I thought. Gonna cry, BRB? Why? Why are you gonna cry? Why is Julie crying? Why is Julie crying? I don't allow that. No crying in the Julie. No crying. Parkour hard? Oh, yeah. I'm gonna have to rewatch your VOD to see what part of the of the parkour got you. Was it the very end? Because it's always the very end. To be so loved. But yeah. Favorite Wilbur song? Honestly, I don't know. They're just all so good. That's the thing. They're all so good and they're all so fun. Honestly, since I saw Vienna, probably. I know that's kind of older song, but... Whoa!
Hello, motherfucker.
Hello, Ginger, how are you? The Minecraft parkour got her. Honestly, are we surprised? Minecraft parkour is just something else. That's the thing. It's just something else, and it just scares me, you, everybody, I would say. I know she's going to his flat. A Capricorn, oh frick that. Hello, Rosie Love. Hey. Heh. Hee. Julie B the parkours. Yes, very true. La Jolla is my fave. I love La Jolla. I remember I was stupid and I used to say La Jolla. I don't know why. I just was like, oh, Jolla. Yeah, La Jolla. Okay, whatever. My brain? Don't understand it, but that's what happened. But it's okay. La Jolla is actually really good. It's a good sleep song for me. What I've learned is, like, the whole Since Your City Gave Me Asthma album, really good for sleeping. I love it. It puts me to sleep. It's like, this is my first time on stream. Welcome. I'm glad to have you here. Hope that you're doing well. How long are you going to be streaming for? Honestly, I'm not too sure. It just depends. Today, me and Julie are going to be reading chapters 21 and 22 of TOMMYINNITS Clinic for Supervillains. So it could be long. I think these are 2 longer chapters. I'm not going to lie. So this might very well go for 2.5 hours, at least the reading portion. And then after, depending on how I feel, I will do more or less. I might like do like a little bit of Minecraft after. Maybe I'll show you guys my house, on Arduous or something, but we'll see. Thanks, of course. Let's see. Thank you for the lurk, Whimsical Bee. Thank you. I'm excited. I hope you are. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. La Jala is the most, I know. That is the most white you're ever gonna hear from me. And that's it. And it's like, I'm used to like saying like with the, like the E, like the yeah, like, you know, like it's very like popular in Mexican, like, or Spanish. So I'm like, the fact that I said La Jala, I don't know. Hold on, I think we are prepared. Don't get me started. I'm gonna be able to watch for the next 4 hours. Oh hell yeah! Name my plant. What should I name it? Name it Kit. Because brand. You gotta promote me. I'm just kidding. Name it Arnold. Emma, who doesn't like anything on the spaghetti. Honestly, I've heard people like just like that eat it with butter, which is fun. How are you? I'm doing really good, Rose Brown. How about you? How about you? Be the only one who... Okay. Here's you. Ah! Yee! Are you excited, Julie Berry?
My hands hurt.
From being hardcore parkour?
From hardcore beating my
no,
butt and
no,
me
it never.
so
It,
mad
no, you won.
The
You won.
table.
You won.
No, I didn't.
The beard scares me.
Hardcore got me, man.
Hey, Julie, what's your opinion on Tommy's beard?
I mean, it could use like a little cleaning up, but I mean, he can do whatever he wants.
Somebody put it in the chat. Okay, let's see. Huh. So, you know what? You're gonna get healed today. You're gonna get healed today because we're reading TOMMYINNITS Clinic for Supervillains.
And can Tommy heal my hands?
You know what? We'll call him up.
Yay.
We'll call him up. Just for you, Julie Berry. Just for you, Julie Berry.
I need to finish my dark berry Dr. Pepper.
Ooh. Oh, you got the dark berry? Let's go.
I got a whole box of them.
Oh my gosh. Oh
dude,
my gosh.
It's funny because, you know, the cans are blue.
Uh-huh.
And they like blend in with my green screen.
Uh-huh. Ooh, so it's like you're just holding up like a Minecraft.
It just says Dr. Pepper.
Oh, okay.
Because it's like transparent.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah, Lavender LOL, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you.
I have a severe weather warning.
Okay. Let me know if it gets too bad, and we will literally, like, we can always redo this. Do not worry.
Yeah, it's just thundering.
Okay.
I like how
maybe it's really thanks for the follow.
Says stay dry.
How you doing today? Staying dry. You staying dry in it?
Dry. I'm staying dry in it.
Wow. Pop off.
Staying dry, staying clean.
Yeah. Well, Julie Berry, are you ready for today? Are you ready for this? Are you ready for chapter 21?
I should be. I gotta like... Wait, we're on chapter 24?
No, 21.
Oh my god, you literally said 24 and I said
I said 24?
I could have sworn you said 24.
It could have just like mixed up. Yo, that mini miner. Hello, welcome to the stream. How you doing?
Mayhaps. Okay, I'm pulling up documents. Pulling up the Google Doc.
Let's see.
I gotta get my lore voice on.
Do we think that we need a little bit of a lore recap?
Oh,
would you like to do the lore recap, my beloved?
I would be honored.
Okay, go ahead and give the people what they want.
Okay, so last we left off. So TOMMYINNITS was kidnapped by Dream, and George, whose power is manipulating people's dreams, like made him like think he was like safe and stuff while trying to interrogate him. But he's all like, "No, this isn't real. You're tricking me." And he's like, "Oh, you quirky little child. You figured it out." And then they bought him McDonald's. And then Sapnap walks in and goes, "Hey, don't kidnap kids. And then Dream's like, okay, tell the people, and we'll get in trouble, and then you'll never see us again. And then Sapnap's all like, shit, dog, you right. I ain't gonna do that. And Tommy's like, what the mug? I wanted to be, like, free and stuff.
Damn.
But then Dream simply said, no, heart emoji. And so later on, the Syndicate comes in and freaking, like, finds him and busts him out while also busting his bones because Dream was, like, lifting him up into a chair, and Rambu, like ran into him, knocking his hand off to the side. So Tommy went, Neum! And, like, hit the wall, and the chair broke, and then he fell, and he broke a lot of bones. But luckily, his power is healing, so his body started healing itself. And it was quite painful, but luckily Siren, aka Wilbur, was there with him to like help him out, and like eventually revealed his like identity, like, I am Wilbur. Siren is Wilbur. And then Tommy's like crying, and he's like, I missed you. And it's so angsty. And then Tommy wakes up the next morning thinking that he's like in a dream again because of 404 traumatizing him. And so Tubbo and Rumbo are there, like, making sure, like, hey, this is real, like, you're chill and stuff. And next you know, he's like, oh, you have a guest. It's Puffy. And then Puffy ends up being all like, yo, dude, I know all the stuff you've been doing. There's a camera in the back room. Who do you think's been restocking the bandages the whole time? You son of a gun. And he is all like, oh, shit, it's Puffy. And then Puffy eventually reveals to him that she was the captain, who was a hero that retired because of all, like, the bad, quirky things that the hero committee was doing. And so Puffy's power is matter manipulation, and if you didn't remember. And then, yeah, she brought him some cake and stuff from the coffee shop.
Yeah.
I think that's about
it.
I think that's about it. So,
and I know that the chapter ends with Tommy, Tubbo, and Rambu all piled up in the bed and going to sleep. So my heart was so warm, and now I feel like it's either going to be warmed even more, like a croissant, or croissant. Let's see. But yeah, I'm excited. But hello, everybody. Nightmare, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you. But we're going to go ahead and get started because we're not going to stall any longer. I'm so excited for these chapters. I'm so excited. I might have seen a little bit of it because of my little thing, just checking it out. But again, all follows, raids, bits, subs, all of those are going to be thanked at the end of the chapter because we want to focus primarily on the chapter. So, I hope you guys enjoy. And also, yeah. Let's see. Yeah. I think, let's see, you're starting off the chapter, so I'll go ahead and start off the beginning part. But, sit down, whip out your popcorn, whip out everything.
I got my Dr. Pepper.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Chapter 21. Late Nights. Tommy continues to recover and has a few important conversations.
Tommy ended up sleeping through the rest of the day. He woke up long after the sun had gone down, with his mouth feeling like the literal desert. The water glass on his nightstand was empty, and he groaned internally at the realization that he was going to have to get up to fill it. Tubbo was dead to the world, snoring with his legs thrown over Tommy's and his head resting on Rambu's stomach. Tommy had no idea how he even got in such a strange position in his sleep, but it was Tubbo. There was usually a lot of unexplained stuff going on with him. Thankfully for Tommy, though, Tubbo wouldn't wake up even if Tommy smacked him in the face with a pillow, which was something he had tried before. So he was able to shove Tubbo's legs off of him without disturbing the boy's snores, and stumbled out of the bed and to his feet without much issue.
Well, except for the fact that he was fucking sore. His entire body ached, which wasn't exactly surprising, but God, it was a pain in his ass. His ribs screamed in protest with every step he took, so he ended up holding onto the wall as he slowly made his way down the stairs and towards the kitchen. He crept down as silently as he could, listening just in case he heard footsteps either above or below him. It wasn't like he was afraid of running into Wilbur or anything. No way, not at all. He just would rather avoid that confrontation at the moment if he could. The kitchen light was off, and the stove clock told Tommy it was nearly 2 a.m. Great. His sleep schedule was fucked up now. At least the kitchen was empty.
Grumbling under his breath about how this was going to make his shifts hell if he couldn't get his sleeping back on track, he set his cup down on the counter and opened the fridge to take out the water pitcher. When he closed the fridge, he nearly screamed when he closed it to find Techno standing on the other side. Jesus Christ! Tommy yelped, clutching a hand to his chest. Give mans a fucking heart attack, why don't you? Sorry about that. Techno apologized, taking a step back. I thought you were Tubbo or Rambu.
It was still weird for Tommy to remember that the Soots knew Tubbo and Rambu now. He hadn't actually seen any of them interact, but they'd been staying at the house since they all rescued Tommy. He wondered if they were all awkwardly formal with one another, or if they were actually becoming friends. He'd always thought that Rambu and Techno especially would get along, and despite the shitfest that was his relationship with the Soots right now, he couldn't help but hope there was some kind of friendship there. No, it's just me, Tommy replied, turning around to pour the water into his cup. I see that, Techno said flatly. God, he'd gotten used to Techno being less awkward around him over his past month staying at the house, so it was strange to see Techno being so unsure now. Are you, feeling any better? Still feel pretty shit, if I'm being honest, Tommy said, taking a sip of his water and sighing in relief as the dessert in his mouth washed away. I'm super fucking sore.
Yeah, that tends to happen when you break all your bones, Techno deadpanned. Tommy let out a surprised laugh. That's a good point. My bones really did just kind of go snap, crackle, pop now, didn't they? Techno huffed, as if he was trying to hide a smile. Don't say it like that. You'll give the old man a heart attack. At the mention of Phil, Tommy's smile faded as he thought back to their conversation a little bit before he was kidnapped. How Phil mentioned thinking of him like a son, and Tommy thinking that even if he wasn't there yet, he could see Phil becoming a father figure to him.
That had to have been real, right? Phil wouldn't have needed to say that just for the act. It wouldn't make any sense. As if on cue, another set of footsteps came towards the kitchen, and Tommy barely got time to prepare himself before Phil was rounding the corner. Techno, where did you... Phil cut himself off when he made eye contact with Tommy, and Tommy froze with his water cup halfway to his mouth. They looked at each other for a few moments, blue eyes meeting blue in an unblinking stare down.
Hey, Phil, Tommy said after a moment, setting down his water cup. It was like hitting the play button on a paused TV. Phil was suddenly rushing forward, and Tommy didn't even get to open his mouth again before Phil was wrapping his arms around him and pulling him close. Shit, it's so good to see you awake, Phil muttered, hugging him tight enough to the point where Tommy almost wanted to ask Phil to loosen up because it was hurting his ribs. Almost.
Instead of trying to pull away, Tommy found himself melting into the hug. He wasn't sure why. This was Zephyrus. The Zephyrus was hugging him after having lied to him for months. But it was also Phil. Phil, who taught him how to play Halo with a seemingly endless amount of patience. Phil, who always had coffee ready for him in the morning. Phil, who affectionately called him a little shit and would smack Wilbur upside the head whenever he tried to convince Tommy that he needed to eat sand. Besides, it's not like Phil, or Techno for that matter, had lied to him as much as Wilbur had. For the most part, the two of them had just kept their identities a secret. And yeah, he wasn't sure where he stood at the moment regarding the Syndicate and their way of doing things, but he could let himself just have a hug from Phil for that moment, right? They stayed like that for a few moments, Phil holding on to Tommy with the same kind of relief that Tommy had always imagined parents had when they lost their kids in a mall, only to be reunited with them a few minutes later thanks to a friendly security guard.
Phil, you might not want to hug him so hard. The kid's a bit sore. Techno eventually chimed in. Almost instantly, Phil's arms relaxed and he pulled away, and Tommy was both relieved that his ribs were no longer aching, but also found himself missing Phil's warmth. Oh, sorry about that, Phil said, taking a breath to steady himself. I just got a little overwhelmed for a second seeing you up and about again. It's okay, Tommy said, folding his arms over his chest as he leaned against the counter. I didn't mind.
Phil's face softened at that, and Techno shot him a teasing look. Don't even stop. I'm allowed to be glad my... Phil cut himself off abruptly, glancing at the ground. I'm allowed to be Tommy... I'm allowed to be Tommy... Oh my gosh!
Are you okay?
No! I'm crying!
Oh.
I'm allowed to be glad Tommy's back. So don't be a little shit, Tech. Techno huffed. You're such a sappy old man. Oh, fuck off. Phil rolled his eyes. Anyway, Tommy, what are you doing awake? It's pretty late, mate.
I got thirsty. Tommy shrugged, pointing to the water pitcher behind him. Well, it's good for you to stay hydrated, so drink up as much as you can, Phil said, nodding in approval. Tommy snorted at how much of a dad he sounded like there, but decided not to voice that thought. There was an awkward silence that fell over the three of them. Then, Tommy took a long sip of his water, waiting to see if Phil and Techno were going to keep trying to talk to him, or if they were going to leave him be. Techno shuffled over to the cabinet, pulling out a bag of chips. Phil seemed as though he wanted to say something else to Tommy, but wasn't sure how to go about it.
Finally, I think we owe you an apology, Tommy, Phil said, folding his arms over his chest. Tommy wasn't sure what he had expected Phil to say, so he just nodded at that, figuring it was best to let him continue. You didn't want to get involved in our problem, and we kind of forced you in anyway. And then you came here to stay with us, not knowing that you were just getting even more caught up in the villain bullshit that you already were, Phil explained, glancing at the ground. We thought it was better to keep you in the dark about our identities, but in the end it didn't really matter. You still got hurt.
Tommy frowned. I mean, Dream kidnapping me wasn't your fault. I should have been more careful. It was our fault. Techno cut in. We had an obligation to keep you safe. We didn't figure out what was going on until it was too late. There were a lot of ways we could have been smarter about this whole deal, and you were the only one who had to deal with the consequences. Falling silent, Tommy wrapped his arms around himself, one question burning in his mind. He didn't want to ask it, terrified of what the answer was going to be, but at the same time, he knew it was going to eat away at his mind unless he found out the truth.
Did you guys ever actually care about me? He whispered, keeping his eyes on the floor. Or did you just agree to let me stay because you could keep a better eye on your healer? Phil sucked in a sharp breath at that. Oh, Tommy, no. How could you even think that? He asked, something hurt dripping from his tone as he stepped towards Tommy. Of course we care about you. I wasn't lying when I said what I said that day in my office. Fuck. It was exactly what Tommy wanted to hear, but how could he even be sure it was true? You don't have to lie, Tommy said, squeezing his arms around himself tighter. I'm not going to stop healing you guys if you tell me the truth.
Suddenly there were warm hands on his face, and his head was being tilted up to meet Phil's eyes. We're not lying, Phil said, meeting his gaze steadily. I don't give a shit if you decide you never want to heal any of us again. And I wouldn't try to stop you if you wanted to cut us off entirely. But if you're worried about what we think of you, I hope you know I consider you just as much as mine as Will and Techno are. Tommy's breathing hitched as another warm hand was placed on his shoulder, and he saw Techno giving him a pained look. It wasn't fake. Techno reassured him. We all care about you, Tommy.
Tears burned in the corners of Tommy's eyes, and he found himself leaning into Phil and Techno's gentle touches. What about Will? He whispered, his heart pounding. Did he just befriend me because I healed him? I think that's a conversation you need to have with Will himself. But I can tell you he loves you so much, Toms, Phil told him, pulling him into another hug. He was an absolute wreck when you got taken from us. He'd been hiding in his room since you woke up because he doesn't think you'll want to see him, Techno explained, squeezing his shoulder. But before that, when you were still passed out, we couldn't get him away from your room. Even when we kept telling him you had healed yourself, he was convinced you were going to stop breathing or something.
Shit. Had Wilbur really been that worried? It sounded like him for sure. He didn't know anymore. But the sincerity in both Phil and Techno's voices right now made Tommy want to believe everything they were saying. He wanted to believe it so badly. That he wasn't just a tool. That he actually meant something to them. Still, he needed to talk to Wilbur. But maybe not right now, considering it was the middle of the night.
Okay, Tommy muttered, pulling away from Phil's hugs. Thanks. Of course, mate, Phil said, dropping his arms. You can take your time with this. I'm sure it's a lot to process. Tommy huffed. Yeah, you could say that again. You should probably go try to sleep some more, Techno then chimed in. You're still recovering, so you need as much rest as you can get.
So true, bestie. Resisting the urge to roll his eyes, Tommy refilled his water cup again before putting the pitcher back in the fridge. You're such a mother hen, Techno, he grumbled. Techno narrowed his eyes. I'm not a mother hen. You totally are, Tommy shot back. Phil, the child is bullying me, Techno complained, shooting a pleading look Phil's way.
Phil snorted. I don't know, Tech. You were the one checking his temperature and his pulse every hour when he was still sleeping. Phil, Techno whined, the pleading look only getting stronger. Come on, I got a reputation. Oh, Techno, but you worried about me? Tommy teased, giving Techno a shit-eating grin. You're such a fucking softy, man. Imagine if people knew the terrifying Blade himself was all motherly and shit. All the edgelords who worship you on Twitter would be heartbroken. Even if you exposed me on Twitter, no one would ever believe you, Techno joked, almost cracking a smile.
Tommy pouted, and Phil chuckled. Well... Wait. Oh, yeah. Well, Twitter aside, you really should be getting back to bed, Tommy, he said, putting a hand on Tommy's shoulder to guide him out of the kitchen. If you want to come down for breakfast in the morning, feel free, but Will will probably be there, so you can always just text me or Techno, and we'll come bring you something. Thanks, guys, Tommy said, shooting them both a small but grateful smile over his shoulder. Then, with one last look, Tommy headed back towards the stairs. He kept his steps as light as he could, but it was hard when his bones felt like they were filled with lead. Despite how awake he'd been before getting up, he was already starting to feel the exhaustion creeping over him once more. Damn. Had to make a mental note not to go and break all of his bones again anytime soon.
Once he reached the third-floor landing, he headed towards his room, but paused when he heard the soft click of a door shutting. Tommy whipped his head towards the sound, and his heart leapt in his throat when he saw it came from Wilbur's room. A soft yellow glow was peeking out from under the door. Wilbur was still awake, and it seemed like he'd watched Tommy come up the steps before shutting the door so he didn't spot him. Tommy stared at the door for a moment, practically able to feel Wilbur standing on the other side, both of them holding their breath as they waited for Tommy to make his move. Tommy found himself in front of Wilbur's door, hand raised to knock against the wood. This was it. He could knock right now and ask the question that was burning a hole in his mind. He could ride off the high of how well things had gone with Techno and Phil and use the momentum to rip the Band-Aid off.
But if Phil was wrong, and Wilbur really had been just using him, well, it was late, and Tommy was getting really tired now. He definitely wasn't in the best state to deal with that kind of pain. Was it an excuse to put the hard conversation off? Yes. Did he do the same thing with Tubbo and Rambu? Also yes. So was he going to do it again? Absolutely. Letting out a deep sigh, Tommy dropped his hand and turned away from Wilbur's door. He ignored the eyes he felt on the back of his head as he headed back into his own room and slipped into the darkness as quietly as he could. He didn't look back as he shut the door behind him.
Crawling into his bed again, Tommy grunted as he shoved Tubbo's legs to the side so he could stretch out again. As soon as he got settled, though, Tubbo huffed in his sleep and his legs fell on top of Tommy's again. And Tommy only sighed because he knew there was no way he was going to get Tubbo to move off of him when he was this deep in sleep. Somehow, though, despite Tubbo's legs resting heavily on his own, Tommy's fatigue was all too eager to put him back under for more sleep. The next morning, Tommy woke up to sunlight filtering in through his curtains, creating slanted shadows across his face. He blinked open his eyes and tried to turn on his side to grab more water, but paused when he felt a heavy weight on his shoulder. Tubbo had once again shifted in his sleep, now splayed out like a starfish with his limbs falling over both him and Rambu.
In hell, Tubbo, Tommy grunted, trying to shove his friend off of him. Tubbo groaned. 5 more minutes, he slurred, burying his face into Tommy's shoulder. No, Tubbo, move, Rambu cut in. And Tommy glanced over to see the other boy staring at the ceiling with one of Tubbo's arms laying on top of his face. Fuck you, Tubbo grumbled.
No, fuck you, you clingy bitch, Tommy shot back, reaching blindly behind him to smack Tubbo in the face. Asshole! Tubbo yelped, smacking the back of Tommy's head in retaliation. Hey, I'm the injured one here, Tommy argued, now turning around to face Tubbo. Tubbo finally moved his arms and legs off of Tommy and Rambu, now fully awake, scowling at the two of them. He huffed as he sat up, his hair sticking up in every direction while Tommy stretched out in relief at finally being free.
Hey, you both, Tubbo mumbled, rubbing at his eyes with a closed fist. You love us, Rambu teased, nudging Tubbo with his elbow. Tubbo rolled his eyes, but there was a sleepy grin spread across his face, so it kind of ruined his attempt at pretending to be annoyed. Instead of trying to argue with Rambu, he instead turned to Tommy, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. How are you feeling, Tommy? Tommy shrugged, sitting a bit straighter against the wall. All right. Still kind of sore and shit, but better than yesterday. I could probably get up and do stuff and be fine.
You should probably stay in bed today, Rambu argued. Better to just get as much rest as you can. Well, that was a fair point. Tommy didn't exactly want to be up and about in the soot house right now, just on the off chance he ran into Wilbur. But on the other hand, he was bored. Not to mention his stomach was growling like a motherfucker. Besides the pastries Puppy brought over yesterday, he hadn't felt like eating much, and it seemed like it was catching up to him. If you're gonna make me sit in bed like a fucking sickly Victorian kid or whatever, can you at least go get me some food? Tommy asked, shooting a pleading look Rambu's way. Can you get me some food too? I think Phil's making pancakes. Tubbo chimed in, matching Tommy's puppy dog eyes perfectly.
God, I love pancakes. Rambu sighed at both of them. Why can't you go, Tubbo? Because I'm sleepy, Tubbo whined, leaning heavily against Tommy's shoulder. Plus, you should do nice things for your husband sometimes. You two are still on about the whole getting married bit? Tommy asked, furrowing his brows. Not really, Rambu said.
But it's funny to call Rambu my husband, Tubbo added. Tubbo, I'm not gonna do stuff for you just because you say I'm a bad husband. What kind of man refuses to get his husband breakfast in bed? Tubbo asked, fluttering his lashes at Rambu with far too much innocence to be genuine. Sighing again, Rambu pinched the bridge of his nose. Fine, I'll go get you guys breakfast.
Thanks, Boo, Tubbo grinned. Huffing, Rambu disappeared in a flurry of purple particles, and Tommy jolted back in surprise. Obviously, he'd known that Tubbo and Rambu were Nuke and Ender for quite a while now, but this was the first time the three of them had been spending time together since the reveal, with Tubbo and Rambu not in their vigilante outfits. Even though Tommy knew Rambu could teleport, it was still strange to see Rambu, his roommate, teleport out of his bedroom and instead of Ender, the vigilante, teleporting around. An old question that he had when the three of them first had their fight reappeared in his head. Why had Tubbo and Rambu hidden their powers from him for so long? As far as he knew, they hadn't been Nuke and Ender for very long. So why had they kept their powers a secret from him the entire time they'd known him?
Tubbo was quiet while Rambu was gone, scrolling through his phone with his hair falling into his eyes. Tommy tried to do the same, absently looking through Twitter to see what was going on, but he couldn't actually focus on the words on his screen. Instead, all he could think of was how they'd known each other for years, how they'd known all about his own powers, yet neither of them had bothered disclosing theirs to him. Had they always planned to become vigilantes? Or was there some reason they hadn't trusted him even before Nuke and Ender came into the picture? Rambu appeared back in the room a few minutes later, balancing a tray full of plates and cups. Each plate had 2 chocolate chip pancakes on it, along with 3 cups of coffee, all with varying levels of sugar and cream in them. Tommy's was the palest shade of brown, Rambu's was somewhere in the middle, and Tubbo took his coffee black like a madman. Once they all had their food settled on their laps, Tommy tried to eat, but he couldn't ignore the nagging in the back of his head as the question turned itself over and over in his mind.
If the air was really clear between the three of them now, it shouldn't hurt to ask. Hopefully. Guys, Tommy started as he cut his pancake into tiny pieces, more so for something to do than to actually eat. Can I ask you something? Tubbo raised an eyebrow, the steam from his coffee curling around his face. What's up, boss man? Tommy took a breath, trying to figure out how to word the question. You guys have only been nuking Ender for, 6 months now?
Yeah, around there, Rambu nodded. Yeah, not long at all. Not long enough to justify having hidden their powers from Tommy in the many past years they'd known each other. I mean, I guess I get it if you don't want to answer this, but, why didn't you ever tell me about your powers? Like, before you became Nuke and Ender? Tommy asked, keeping his eyes fixed on the plate. There was a pause. Silence hung heavy in the air, and when Tommy glanced up through his hair falling over his face, he could see Tubbo and Rambu exchanging uncertain looks.
I thought we agreed no more secrets, Tommy complained, ignoring the way his heart clenched at seeing the two of them have another one of their silent conversations. No, Tommy, we're not trying to keep any more secrets from you at all, Rambu rushed to explain, putting his coffee mug down. I guess, I'll go first, though. The truth is, I didn't even know I had powers until, like, a month before we started the whole vigilante thing. Tommy blinked. What? Yeah, I know. Weird, right? But it's the truth. One day, you were at the cafe on a shift, and Tubbo and I were just hanging out at home when he decided to try to scare me as a prank. It worked, but I ended up teleporting myself across the room by accident, which is how I found out I could do that. He paused, picking at his nails. I was going to tell you as soon as you got home, but Tubbo, kind of convinced me not to.
Tommy narrowed his eyes at Tubbo, wincing as a pang flashed through his chest. Tubbo? He prompted. Tubbo looks like he wanted to crawl into his coffee mug and hide. Yeah, okay, I know that sounds bad, but I promise it had nothing to do with you, he tried to explain, shrinking back against the pillows. I had already been thinking of doing the whole vigilante thing for a while at that point. So when I saw Ranboo had powers, I told him to keep it a secret because I wanted to see if I could train it and get better at it. Then I told him about my own powers and my plan to be a vigilante and asked if he wanted to do that with me. I wanted to keep you out of it because of the whole not wanting to worry you shit that I told you before. It was fucking stupid in retrospect, but, yeah. It's my fault Ranboo didn't tell you about his powers. Blinking, Tommy's shoulders dropped just a bit, knowing Ranboo hadn't been keeping that huge of a secret from him for that long. But that still left Tubbo. Tubbo, who clearly had been keeping his secret for quite a long time.
Why didn't you tell me about yours, though? Tommy asked, his voice small. Tightening his grip on his mug, Tubbo took a sip of his coffee. He was silent for a moment, and Tommy noticed his hands were shaking. I don't like my powers, he said quietly. I've gotten a bit less scared of them using them recently, but for most of my life, I tried to suppress them. Tommy frowned. Why?
I found out about them when I was 8, Tubbo explained, shoulders hunching. It was my first foster home. I'd lived there since I was 5, after I was found in that box that I told you about. Anyway, one day I was just messing around with my foster sister, and then she shoved me and I got freaked out. Then my hands started glowing, and the next thing I knew... Tubbo made a whoosh noise and mimicked an explosion with his hands, making Tommy wince. Jesus fucking Christ, Tommy whispered. It's okay. It was a while ago. Tubbo brushed it off, though. Tommy could see the regret swirling in his eyes. She lived, but she was badly burnt. We were in the kitchen at the time, so it got written off as a gas explosion from the stove being left on. But I think my foster parents knew I had something to do with it because they asked my social worker to take me away not long after that. Fuck. Tommy had thought he'd known everything about Tubbo and Ranboo's histories in the foster system before the three of them got put together, but apparently that wasn't the case.
He didn't blame Tubbo for not telling him that, though. That was intense. It was at that moment that Tommy realized that even though they both had powers, Tommy was never going to understand what it was like to have a destructive power like that. The only thing Tommy could do with his power was help people. He didn't think he could hurt anyone with his ability, even if he tried. But seeing the mixture of fear and guilt swirling behind Tubbo's eyes like an ocean made him try to imagine what it would be like to constantly be afraid of what you were capable of. If one small lapse in control could lead... If one small lapse in control could lead to him killing someone. It had to be exhausting to worry about that all the time. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you talk about something you didn't want to, Tommy said, dropping his eyes.
No, it's okay, Tubbo shrugged. I told Ranboo the same story when I told him about my powers. You deserve to know the truth. Tommy nodded. I appreciate it, he murmured, taking a mechanical bite of his pancake. He chewed for a moment, mulling over the new information in his head before another question came to him. But then, why the whole fucking crime-fighting thing? I guess I just got sick of seeing all the hero bullshit on the news, Tubbo explained, perking up a bit at the change of topic. I knew I had a powerful ability that could really fuck some people up with, and even if I didn't like using it, I felt like I should at least try to learn how to control it instead of just pretending like it didn't exist. And if I was able to help some people at the same time, then that was even better, you know? Yeah, I get it. Reaching out, Tommy rested a hand on Tubbo's shoulder and squeezed. Don't worry about it. I get it, big man.
Sorry I didn't tell you about my powers earlier. I promise it wasn't that I didn't trust you or anything. I just didn't want to have to explain that whole thing to you guys, Tubbo said, giving Tommy a sad smile. It's fine. Like I said, I understand. Tommy nodded, the weight of having lifted itself from his chest completely now. Anyway, enough of this enough of the depressing shit. You guys have got to try Phil's pancakes. These are the best fucking things you're ever gonna eat. Haven't got a chance to try Phil's cooking yet. So far, we've mostly just been eating Techno's potatoes, Ranboo told him. Baked potatoes? Tommy asked.
They nodded. The mashed potatoes? More nods. Potatoes au gratin, or however the fuck you say it.
I think it's potatoes au gratin, and yes, he's made those too. Rumbu corrected him. It's not bad. Like, Techno's a really good cook, but kind of relieved for getting a break from potatoes. Tommy snorted. Try living with him for as long as I have. Tubbo rolled his eyes. Poor Tommy, getting to live in this fancy-ass house, eating all this rich-ass food, while Rambu and I live off ramen like peasants. You've already forgotten us for the bourgeoisie, haven't you? I haven't forgotten you for the bourgeoisie, Tommy protested.
I don't know, Tommy. Your sweater looks more expensive than half our closet back home combined, Rambu pointed out, reaching over to tug at the heavy knit fabric. Rich boy Tommy, Tubbo teased, giving Tommy a shit-eating grin. Sorry, but when the revolution comes, I'm gonna have to guillotine you. Letting out a fake gasp, Tommy clutched at his shirt dramatically. I can't believe my own best friends would do this to me. Look, man, we gotta eat the rich. I don't know what to tell you, Rambu chimed in, his grin matching Tubbo's.
Groaning, Tommy buried his face in his blanket to hide his smile. Even if his friends were being annoying, he had missed this so much. Just the stupid back and forth the three of them would have, back when things weren't so complicated between them. It felt like the world between them had finally fallen back into balance, like everything was back to normal. And for the trio, it was. They spent the rest of the day holed up in Tommy's room, Rambu occasionally teleporting out to grab snacks or board games for them to play together. They joked around, caught up on how things had been going in the time they'd been apart, and really just enjoyed being back as a group. It was like an ache Tommy hadn't even realized was there had disappeared, letting him breathe easier than he had in ages. But even though one thorn had been removed from his side, there was still another one buried deep in his chest. Despite how much fun he had just hanging out in bed with Tubbo and Rambu the whole day, he found himself missing Wilbur.
Not counting the whole half-conscious reveal that he was Siren, Tommy hadn't had a proper conversation with Wilbur since the night he'd been kidnapped. He missed sitting with him as he practiced his songs, or curling up on the couch with him to watch movies, or just listening to him ramble about the random shit that came to his head. It was strange to go this long without seeing him, and even though Tommy had a whole slew of complicated emotions towards the man right now, he just missed when none of that mattered. Before his suspicions had been confirmed, back when Wilbur was just Wilbur, his best friend, his brother. Was Wilbur like a brother to him anymore?
Said the B word. The ache in his chest told him yes, but Tommy wasn't sure. And he was too scared to really think about what that could mean for the future if the answer turned out to be no. Tubbo and Rambu were a great distraction to keep him from focusing too much on these problems. But distractions couldn't last forever. That night, Tubbo and Rambu told him that they needed to go out and patrol East Side, as Nuke and Ender hadn't been seen since the night Tommy was rescued. Tommy argued that it was too dangerous with it being so soon after his rescue, but the two reassured him they'd been extra careful. If they saw even the slightest flash of a hero in the distance, Rambu promised he'd teleport them back to the house, because neither of them wanted to risk getting in a fight when Tommy was still too weak to heal anyone. They changed into their vigilante outfits and waved goodbye to Tommy as Rambu teleported them out into the streets, leaving Tommy alone in his room with nerves bouncing around his chest.
He knew Tubbo and Rambu would be fine. They'd gone on countless patrols before without having issues, and they were going to be extra careful this time. No, it wasn't them he was worried about. It was that he no longer had anything to distract him. He tried to keep himself busy. At first he tried listening to music on his phone, but nearly half his Spotify library at this point were songs Wilbur had recommended to him. Then he tried booting up his GameCube so he could play Animal Crossing before remembering that Wilbur had been the one to give him the old GameCube. Eventually, he resorted to just scrolling through Twitter mindlessly. There were a few news reports talking about some reported fight at a warehouse in South Bay regarding Tommy's rescue, but there had been no confirmed sightings as to which heroes and villains were present. Fairly typical for the useless media, if you ask Tommy.
It was nearly midnight when Tommy heard footsteps outside his door, which was just barely cracked open. He paused the TikTok he was watching about a hedgehog so he could listen closer, and saw a flash of brown come from outside. Tommy resisted the urge to sigh as he realized what was going on. He should just get it over with. He wasn't going to get any peace until he jumped headfirst into the water, no matter how cold it might be. Will, stop fucking creeping outside my door and just get in here, Tommy called out, wincing at how his voice slightly wavered.
The pacing steps froze. Sorry, I didn't mean... Shit. I'll just go, Wilbur called back. Tommy huffs. No, get your ass in here. We need to talk. Another pause. Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure. Now hurry up before I change my mind, Tommy grumbled, trying to shove down the fear, making his heart pound in his chest. There was another beat of silence, and then the door to his room slowly creaked open. Wilbur poked his head in, and Tommy immediately flashed back to being on the roof, pain making his head spin as Wilbur's face stared out at him where Siren had just been a moment before. Wilbur looked terrible right now, to say the least. There were dark bags under his eyes, and his hair was a complete wreck, as if he'd completely given up on his complicated hair routine. He was dressed in a loose sweatshirt and sweatpants, and honestly, it looked like he hadn't gotten out of bed in days. Though, to be fair, Tommy doubted he looked much better.
Where are Tubbo and Rombu? Wilbur asked, glancing around the room. They're out patrolling in east side. Didn't want to let Nuke and Ender disappear from public eye for too long, Tommy explained. Nodding, Wilbur made his way into the room, awkwardly shuffling towards the chair that was still settled next to his bed from the day before. Wilbur seemed to be trying to avoid Tommy's eyes, but there was some complicated emotion on his face that Tommy couldn't place. It was like he was guilty, but also on the verge of tears, but also relieved, all at once. Tommy didn't understand it, but instead of asking, he just waited for Wilbur to sit down.
Then, once he had settled, Tommy realized he had no fucking clue where to go from here. Shit. Maybe he should have thought this through a bit more. Hey, Tommy said quietly, for lack of knowing how else to start this. Hi, Wilbur replied, keeping his eyes on his lap as he wrung his hands together.
Things fell silent between them again. So far, going great. Jesus Christ, Tommy was an idiot. It was much, much harder than Tommy had expected it to just sit there with a straight face with Wilbur only a few feet away from him. There were so many thoughts and emotions swirling in his head. It felt like a hurricane had started up inside his mind. He was angry. He was sad. He was hurt, but he also was just so fucking happy to see Wilbur again. A small part of Tommy desperately wanted to reach out and hug him, but he kept his arms firmly at his sides. After taking a few moments to think over what to say, he figured starting with the obvious made the most sense.
So, you're Siren, Tommy said, bringing his knees to his chest. Wilbur nodded. Yeah, I am, he answered, pushing his hair back from his face. I wanted to tell you. I tried telling you several times, actually, but Techno and Phil were really strict about making sure I didn't reveal my identity because we didn't want to put you in danger. Tommy thought back to their conversation on his second night at the Soot House, when Tommy was so dizzy from healing Nemesis he could barely stand up straight. How Wilbur had confessed he was keeping something from Tommy, and Tommy had replied that he was keeping something from him too. God, the irony.
I'm not mad you didn't tell me you were Siren, Tommy started, resting his chin on his knee. I understand why you couldn't tell me that. You guys were just trying to keep me safe. Wilbur snorted, but it wasn't out of humor. It was more bitter than that. Yeah, look how that turned out. Tommy rolled his eyes. It was good you guys didn't tell me. 404 used his freaky fucking powers to spy on my dreams, and if I'd known your identities, he probably would have seen it. Wait, 404 used his dream interrogation on you? Wilbur asked, something pained edging his tone. Tommy nodded and Wilbur's face fell. Shit, I'm so sorry, Tommy. I've heard stories about what 404 can do. I can't imagine how nightmarish that must have been for you.
Clenching his jaw, Tommy pressed his face into the blankets over his legs. I don't want to talk about this dream shit, he muttered, before reaching his right hand over to pinch the skin of his left palm. There was a sharp sting, and Tommy took a breath to remind himself again that this was real. Maybe I'll tell you later, but that's not what we're talking about right now. Yeah, no, of course, Wilbur agreed, although he still seemed upset. Whatever, not the focus of the conversation right now. Tommy pinched himself a little harder before forcing himself to let go of his palm. Taking another shaky breath, Tommy thought of the next burning question in his head. One of the main thoughts that had been circulating in his mind since he'd first let himself fully accept that Wilbur was Siren.
Like I said, I'm not pissed that you hid your identity from me, Tommy repeated, staring at the small bead of blood on his palm from where he'd broken the skin pinching himself. But you took advantage of the fact that I didn't know who you were under the mask. Siren asked me what I thought about Wilbur, and I don't know. I guess I just want to know if that was all some fucking game to you, Tommy asked, wincing when his voice cracked at the end. There was a sharp intake of breath from Wilbur, but Tommy didn't look up to meet his eyes. What? Was it real? Tommy pushed, pulling his knees closer to his body. You and me being friends, the whole brother shit, was that real? Or were you just trying to keep your healer close by? A beat of silence passed with Tommy's heart racing in his ears. He risked a glance up at Wilbur and saw he was staring at him with one of the most heartbroken expressions he'd ever seen Wilbur make.
Tommy, Wilbur whispered, reaching out to grab his wrist, squeezing it gently. None of it was fake, I swear on my life. I didn't befriend you for any reason to do with your healing. I just genuinely thought you were fun to talk to. Then I got to know you better, and you got me, and I got you. We just clicked, you know? Nodding, Tommy lifted his head a little bit from his knees. They had clicked so well. It was like they had already known each other for years. Sure, he technically met Siren before he met Wilbur, but he'd only talked to Siren twice. And one of those times he was passed out for most of their time together. No, Tommy had gotten to know Wilbur first. And Wilbur was right in saying that they had just clicked together, like puzzle pieces. I swear on my life, I wasn't even planning on telling Phil and Techno about you until Phil got shot that night, Wilbur continued when Tommy didn't respond. And then I just panicked because I didn't know how badly Phil was injured. I didn't plan to use you as a healer again. It just happened. But that's not why I became friends with you. I promise.
Tommy winced at the mention of the night Phil was shot, his mind flashing back to the security footage of Siren. You know, Dream showed me some security footage from that night, Tommy said softly, now watching Wilbur's face. When you were fighting those cops at the warehouse. Wilbur paled. You saw what I did? Yeah, Tommy whispered. You told all those men to kill each other.
Wincing, Wilbur let go of Tommy's wrist. I did. Yeah. Tommy took a shaky breath. Of course the footage was real, but some part of him had been hoping it was fake. That Dream had somehow doctored it. But no. It was real, and Wilbur just admitted it. Why? Tommy asked after another beat. You didn't have to kill those guys. You could have just made them fall asleep.
Clenching his jaw, Wilbur nodded. You're right. I could have done that. The truth is, I just didn't think of it, he admitted, wringing his hands again. Like I said, when Phil got shot, I panicked. I could tell it was bad, but there was so much going on. There was no way for me to just tell how bad it was. I didn't know if he was dying or if it just grazed him. All I knew was that I had to take care of the police officers left behind, and I just got angry. They could have killed my dad, and I was fucking pissed. So the order just slipped out without me really thinking about it. Somehow, the confession was both a relief and a horrible weight on Tommy's shoulders at the same time. On the one hand, Wilbur knew full well what he did was wrong, but he'd done it out of fear and anger for his father. His family had been hurt, and he retaliated. Tommy understood that. But he had killed so many people. Only one of those officers had shot Phil, but all of them paid with their lives. Wilbur hadn't even thought twice about killing people, as if their lives just meant nothing to him in that moment. Tommy felt vaguely sick as he met Wilbur's eyes again.
Do you regret it? Tommy asked. I do. Wilbur nodded. I've killed before, but never that many at once. I barely slept for the rest of the week after that happened. Letting out a shaky breath, Tommy nodded. There was another question burning in his mind, but he didn't know if he wanted the answer to it. But now was the time to hash these things out. He either discovered the truth now, or he was never going to.
Can you stop killing people? Tommy whispered, feeling like a little kid asking if he could skip school that day. This time, Wilbur was silent for a long moment. He stopped wringing his hands, instead staring at the ground, with Tommy practically able to hear the storm in his mind. As the seconds ticked on, he squeezed his eyes shut before opening them again and letting out a breath. Wilbur glanced up to meet Tommy's eyes through the curls falling in his face. No, While I can try to keep from losing control of my emotions like that again, I can't promise I'll never kill someone again. Not in my line of work.
It was a confession, an apology, a plea. Tommy heard all the different tones in Wilbur's words, the infallible truth in his voice. This was the way things were in the world of villains and heroes. People died, and no pleas of Tommy's were going to change it. When Tommy didn't say anything for a long moment, Wilbur spoke again.
Is that a deal breaker? He whispered, fear dripping from his voice. I understand if it is. If you don't want anything to do with me because of this. Was this a deal breaker? Tommy wanted to say yes. God, he really wished he could open his mouth and say that yes, this was too far for him. He had already stretched his moral boundaries enough healing the Syndicate, but if innocent people were going to continue to be harmed, then he wanted nothing to do with the villains. That's what he should say. That was the right thing to do, and Tommy had always said he was just trying to do the right thing. But Tommy knew the truth, and as much as he hated to admit it, Wilbur deserved to hear it.
No, Tommy whispered, twisting his fingers into the blankets. I should say it is. I know I should. But I can't because I'm too fucking selfish. Sitting here, Tommy could see exactly why Flame had done what he'd done. Why he had refused to turn Dream and 404 in, despite not condoning them kidnapping Tommy. As much as he wanted to resent Flame for refusing to help him, Tommy couldn't, because he understood it now. Dream and 404 were Flame's family, and even if he didn't approve of what they were doing, he was too selfish to live in a world without them by his side. Tommy was the same way. He was too selfish to cut Wilbur off, to leave behind the Syndicate and go back to the life he had before. The Syndicate was his family now. Wilbur was his family. The idea of leaving was too painful for him to bear.
You're my brother, Will, Tommy said, his voice cracking. I can't cut you off like that, even if I wanted to. And suddenly, Tommy leaned towards Wilbur, arms outstretched with Wilbur meeting him halfway. He pressed his face into Wilbur's shoulder and hugged him as tightly as he could, wanting to sob in relief at how good it felt just to be back with his brother again. Maybe he was selfish, but he could be okay with that. Wilbur squeezed him just as tight, burying his face in Tommy's hair and holding him like he was afraid Tommy was going to disappear at any moment.
I don't deserve this, Wilbur told him, sounding rough. I don't deserve to be your brother. I'm not a good person. Not after all the shit I've done. Tommy scoffed into Wilbur's sweater and pulled him closer. Shut up, he said into the fabric. I chose you as my family, and I don't go back on that shit. You're my brother, whether you like it or not. Wilbur let out a wet laugh, bringing one hand up to run his hand through Tommy's hair. Fuck, I missed you so much. I'm sorry for everything. The lying, the tricking you into telling me what you thought of me, letting you get hurt. I'm just so fucking sorry for all of it. I missed you too, you idiot, Tommy told him. I don't know if I forgive you for all that shit just yet, but I'm back now and you're not gonna be able to get rid of me, dickhead.
I'm going to hold you to that if you get kidnapped again, Wilbur joked, and Tommy could feel his laughter reverberate through his chest. But seriously, I promise that I'm going to work every day to make sure I deserve to be your brother. Because you deserve the best family possible, Toms. Fuck. Wilbur, that bastard couldn't say shit like that. Tommy had already been fighting to hold back tears, but that broke the dam entirely. Tommy cried into Wilbur's shoulder, so many emotions running through him at once. Happiness, relief, guilt, sadness. Tommy knew he was being selfish, but he couldn't bring himself to care because he just missed his brother so much. This was his family now. Phil had said that if Tommy wanted it, Tommy could be theirs.
He wanted it. Even if it was selfish of him, he wanted it so badly. Eventually, after Tommy stopped crying, Wilbur went to his room and came back with his guitar on hand. He settled down on the bed next to Tommy, strumming out a few tunes while Tommy played Animal Crossing on the GameCube, with Wilbur making a game out of trying to match the town music playing in the game. When Tubbo and Rambu came back from their patrol, they found Wilbur and Tommy both passed out on Tommy's bed with the GameCube still turned on. Tommy had his head resting on Wilbur's chest, and Wilbur had an arm protectively laid over his shoulders. Rumbu turned off the TV while Tubbo moved Wilbur's guitar so it was no longer half hanging off the bed. Then they shut the lights off in their room and headed downstairs to remake their bed on the couch. And finally, for the first time in days, the night was peaceful. Oh my god.
Oh my god, that actually killed me. That actually killed me.
Oh my god.
That actually kind of killed me. And I... guys, so the next
god.
stream is actually going to be my funeral. Because that chapter hurt me so bad.
I told you there was going to be reconciliation.
I know,
though,
this
didn't
is just the... Oh, I'm in pain.
Oh my gosh.
I'm in pain. Hold on, let's see. Hold on.
Slash pause. Good pain. Good pain.
I like got something caught in my chest and I just started coughing. It was so sad.
Lamau.
It was so sad I started coughing. Oh my gosh. But let's see. Who did I miss for follows?
I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Okay, go to the bathroom. I'm gonna thank follows and stuff.
Hey.
Bye. Okay, I'm gonna go back just in case. Lavender, LOL, thank you so much for the follow. Maybe it's Haley, thank you so much for the follow. Nightmare, thank you so much for the follow. Dramatic Adagio, I hope I said that right. Thank you so much for the follow. The Real Goldie Afton, whoa, the Real Goldie Afton. Thank you so much for the follow. LOL 0070, wait, 0070, yeah. Thank you for the follow. Jade329, thank you so much for the follow. And Arya Windblade, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you guys so much for all the follows. This hurts. This chapter. Let's see. And thank you for the Hydrate Onyx. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And the posture check. Thank you. Let's see. What did, yeah. You still have more to go through? Hold that funeral later? No! I'm holding it now, so I don't have to read the rest of it, because I will cry. Oh, man. I'm in pain. And this next chapter is going to be so good, too, because I've seen little bits of it, because, I kind of, like, look through them. I kind of look through them because of the way that we set up this stream, like the kind of behind the scenes, talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique, completely not ever been done before, unafraid to reference or not reference, put it in a blender, shit on it, vomit on it, eat it, give birth, pause. I can't breathe. Rosie Love, hee hee. Thank you for the follow. Hello, Jade. Also, I had muted the sound alerts because it came up at a really funky spot. So during it, I will be, there's 26 chapters. I will be, muting it during the chapters just so it doesn't disturb the, oh my god, I have The Last of Us on here! Guys, okay, so if you didn't know, this is my lore playlist. So I have The Last of Us music on here. And if you don't know what that is and you can't hear it right now because you're a VOD watcher, make sure to come watch them live, in person, on the screen. It's fabulous, man. I am so sad. That chapter hurt me in ways that I don't think I'll ever recover from. Wait. Yeah, this is going to be a longer chapter, too. I gotta go. That's totally okay, Onyx. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed, this past chapter. But yeah, we have 26 chapters left. This is 22. So technically, after this, we have 2 more Tommy Tuesdays, I believe. Yeah. 2 more Tommy Tuesdays. That's insane. How long have we been doing this for? That's the thing. I don't know how long we've been doing this for. Hold on. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, how's The Last of Us DMCA? I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure if it's DMCA just because it's actually like a score. Some scores do come off as DMCA or become DMCA.
DMCA is not good.
It really isn't. It really isn't. Julie, do you know how long we've been doing this for? Like, this fanfic?
Like 2 months?
About right, man. Because after this chapter, we're ending in two more streams. 2 more Tommy Tuesdays.
Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do after that?
I don't know! I guess we're gonna have to find another Tommy fic to keep on Tommy Tuesdays, you know?
Dude, literally, like...
I mean, who else could read another fanfic as well as Julie Berry and Kitsage Live? Whoa, did I just mix up our names? Julie Berry Live!
Kitsage Live! Hey, yo!
Guys, that's my last name if I get married to Julie. And then it'll be Julieberry underscore. Julieberry underscore and Kissage Live. That's like my last name. Mine is underscore.
I'm looking through all like my AO3 bookmarks, and I'm like, we gotta find one that's like completed.
See, if we do Wilbur, we can make Wilbur Wednesday. And like a Tubbo Thursday. Phil's a Friday. We're gonna pretend like Phil has an F in it. Or even a Tech Noun Thursday. You know, we never know. We never know.
It's gonna be Sleepy Boys orientated.
It is. It has to be. It has to be.
I'm eating a cheese stick.
As you should. No, my mom like midstream brought me pasta, so I was like, oh, and I kind of choked on some of it. So I like muted my mic and it was just like, eh. Okay. Let's see. Do you think we need a lore recap? I think that was pretty much just very much a lot of reconciliation.
Yeah, basically.
It was just heartfelt, and it made me cry, and I want to go pass away in a game.
Yeah.
But are you ready for the next chapter?
Yeah.
'Cause I think we're prepared. I think we're ready.
Alright, I'm just gonna be eating my cheese stick as time flies. So
pop off.
Alright. Chapter 22. Tommy, oh wait, no. Chapter 22, back to work. Tommy has healed up. Trigger warnings for this chapter. Talk of someone dying. L.
No!
Oh, I know this one.
Yeah, I kind of saw a little glimpse of it, so I know who.
Dadgummit,
I'm
kid, why
sorry.
you gonna do that?
I'm sorry, because I'm the one highlighting it. So I see parts of it. Anyways, but yes, trigger warnings. Take care of yourself. Step away if you need to. But we're gonna go ahead and get started. Okay. Days passed. Tommy's soreness faded away, and it wasn't long before he was fully recovered from his kidnapping. At least in the physical sense. Tommy spent his days lounging with either Tubbo and Rambu, or Wilbur by his side, because now that they had talked, Wilbur was back to being a clingy shit. Sometimes all of them would pile into the couch and watch movies, although there was still a bit of tension between Wilbur and Tommy's roommates. It seemed to get better with each passing day, though, and Tommy wondered if one day Tubbo and Rambu would consider the Soots as friends. He certainly hoped so. But now, with Tommy healed up, a new question hung over the entire Soot household. What happened now?
Briefly, Tommy wondered if he was going to move back in with Tubbo and Rambu since they'd made up. But that idea was quickly shut down by Wilbur reminding him that Dream was probably going to be looking for him since his rescue. Just because Tommy was free now didn't mean Dream was going to give up, so they had to be careful until they could figure out what to do. Technoblade and Wilbur both wanted Tommy to stay in the house until they managed to, well, make a deal with Dream or take him down permanently, just to get him out of the way to ensure Tommy's safety. But there was no fucking way Tommy was going to go for that. He'd been stuck inside for 5 days, and he was already going stir crazy. Shockingly, despite how much he complained about his job, Tommy found himself actually missing going to work. That's how bored he was. When Tommy first approached Wilbur with the idea of going back to work at Puffy's, Wilbur laughed in his face.
Are you fucking kidding me? The last time you were at Puffy's, you got kidnapped. You're insane if you think we're letting you go back to work. Wilbur scoffed, half sunken into the couch. Tommy frowned. I'm not just gonna stay in here forever. Plus, Puffy's gotta be scrambling for someone to cover my shifts, and that's not really fair to her. Don't get me wrong. Puffy's like an aunt to me, but I think she'd rather you be safe and deal with being understaffed than let you get hurt again, Wilbur argued. Wilbur's right. Techno cut in from the kitchen when he was currently in the midst of peeling up, you guessed it, potatoes. We're not letting you get kidnapped again. It was pain enough the first time finding that dumb warehouse Dream rented.
It was early evening. Outside, the setting sun had turned the city sky a dark shade of fiery orange, and Tommy knew that soon Tubbo and Rambu would be out in the city on patrol. Right now, they were back at their apartment since, unlike Tommy, they didn't have any clothes of their own at the Soot house. They would be back later that night, but they were set to have Ender and Nuke do another swoop around Eastside, keeping an eye out for any sign of activity from Dream. So that meant the only people in the house were Tommy, Wilbur, Techno, and Phil, just like before. On one hand, it was almost nostalgic, for things to feel the way they did before Tommy knew the Soot family's biggest secret. But on the other hand, It was really fucking annoying. Because now he knew he wasn't just dealing with the overprotective Soots, but the overprotective Syndicate at the same time.
But Techno! His Tommy whined, dropping his head back against the couch. Come on, I'll be fine! Dream's not gonna try to kidnap me twice from the same place. He's not that fucking stupid. Tommy, we're not letting you go back to work. The risks are too high, Techno repeated. Huffing, Tommy glanced back at Wilbur, who was giving him a smug look. Tommy stuck his tongue out him, and in turn, Wilbur stretched his legs across the couch and kicked his thigh. Narrowing his eyes, Tommy kicked Wilbur back, and soon the two were kicking each other back and forth. It wasn't enough to hurt, but Tommy could tell it was annoying the shit out of Wilbur, and that's what was the most important. Suddenly, Tommy landed a hard kick against Wilbur's side, and he hissed.
You fucking gremlin, he exclaimed. You shouldn't have been kicking me, Tommy hissed. You stuck your tongue out at me, Wilbur argued. Oh, like sticking my tongue out at someone is the same as fucking kicking them. Boys.
Both Tommy and Wilbur fell silent as Phil's booming voice, the two of them sheepishly glancing above the couch to see Phil standing in the archway to the living room. Not for the first time, Tommy jumped seeing Phil's massive black wings just casually sticking out of his old rock band t-shirt. Now that everyone was in on the secret, Phil had no reason to hide the wings around the house. And of course, Tommy knew that Phil was Zephyrus, but it was still startling to be reminded of all the same. Phil! Tommy whined after his moment of surprise passed, hoisting himself up so he was half draped across the back of the couch. The bitchy duo over here won't let me go back to work! Dad, please tell him he's crazy if he thinks we're letting him go back to the same place Dream kidnapped him, Wilbur said, shooting him a pleading look.
Phil sighed, his feathers ruffling behind him. You're gonna hate me for this, but actually, Tommy has a point. What? Techno and Wilbur demanded at the same time. I mean, it's not like we can just keep him here forever. He's got a life of his own. And even if Puffy understands the situation, it doesn't mean it's necessarily fair to her to just take one of her only baristas, Phil explained, walking to the kitchen so he was leaning against the kitchen counter. God knows Foolish has probably been working way too many double shifts since Tommy got taken. Phil, come on, you gotta understand how risky that is, Techno asked, turning away from his potatoes to raise an eyebrow at Phil.
I wasn't saying we just send him out there with no protection, Phil shot back. Obviously, we'd have someone from the Syndicate assigned to stay at work with you and get you home, Tommy. Tommy shrugged. While it wasn't ideal, it wasn't like he was trying to hide his healing business from anyone anymore. Having someone there to keep an eye on him really wouldn't be much of a bother in the long run. That's fine by me. See? He agrees, Phil said, gesturing to Tommy while shooting Techno and Wilbur sharp looks. I think you need at least 2 of us assigned to you every night, Wilbur argued, looking back at Tommy.
Well, I get where you're coming from, but we don't exactly have numbers for that, Phil cut in. Besides, I think having one person there should be plenty to get Tommy away should Dream show up. The goal wouldn't be to fight Dream head-on. The goal would just be to get Tommy back here as quickly as possible. I don't like it, Techno huffed. Me neither, Wilbur agreed. I have no issues with this arrangement, Tommy said, flashing Phil a bright smile.
Phil shot him a fond smile back while Wilbur rolled his eyes. If it makes you two feel better, I want to open this as an actual discussion at this next Syndicate meeting, Phil continued, glancing at both Wilbur and Techno. Everyone's going to take our side, I bet. Will, I swear to God, if you use your voice to rig the vote...
Me? I would never. Philza, how dare you accuse of me of such a thing? Wilbur gasped in fake offense. You have such a dramatic little shit, Phil muttered, shaking his head. But anyway, we're going to have a discussion about that. And we're also just going to need to fill Tommy in since there's really no point in keeping stuff a secret from him now. Tommy frowned, straightening up in his seat. Wait, what do you mean by fill me in? Fill me in on what? And there it was again, that fond smile.
Everything, Tommy. We're going to fill you in on everything. Holy shit. Holy shit! Did that mean Tommy was going to learn why they formed the Syndicate in the first place? And what their goal was? Sure, everyone knew the Syndicate's general goal was to take down the Hero Committee, but there was obviously so much more to it than that. But the Syndicate were a mysterious group, and for the most part, their motivations were shrouded in secrecy.
But apparently, Tommy was going to be told everything. He had to admit, he was pretty excited. Also, I think you should go tomorrow, Tommy. Phil then added after a few moments. Hey, Techno blurted out as he dropped a potato in a pot of water.
Tomorrow? Wilbur exclaimed. What? No, he's still recovering. I'm fine, asshole, Tommy argued, clambering higher up against the couch. No, you're not. You literally broke like half your fucking bones. And they have healing powers, dumbass.
It still takes energy out of you. Yeah, I've got him back now, Wilbur. Phil snapped, seemingly fed up Wilbur and Tommy's bickering. Wilbur's mouth immediately shut as he stared a nervous look at his father. Tommy had to fight the urge to snicker, knowing it would probably earn him a similarly stern look from Phil.
I understand you're worried, but I genuinely think Tommy needs to get out of the house. Just for his own mental health's sake. You'll stay with him in the cafe throughout his entire shift, and you'll bring him back here afterwards, so we can all take him to the meeting as a group. Does that sound alright to you? Phil asked, pinching the bridge of his nose. Glancing between Phil and Tommy, Wilbur huffed and folded his arms over his chest. I guess I can live with that. Turning back to Tommy, Phil raised an eyebrow. Think you can handle the dramatic one over here during your shift tomorrow? Hey!
Say I'm crunchy. I'm gonna leave and come back.
Okay. No, not the crunch.
Am I crunch? Test,
Let's
test.
see.
1, 2, 3,
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Julie.
Testing. I'm Julie Berry. Am I better now?
Are we still crunching?
Am I crunchberry?
Is it smooth peanut butter or crunchy peanut butter?
Ooh, I like smooth.
I'm a smooth person
peanut
too.
butter is better.
No more crunch.
No more crunch?
Woo!
Perfect. Okay. I don't know, Phil. This is a pretty big favor you're asking, Tommy said, letting out an exaggerated sigh as he fell back into the cushions. Having to put up with a bitch like Wilbur is so exhausting. Oh, you little... Come here! Before Tommy could do anything, Wilbur was lunging at him. Tommy yelped as he got pulled into a headlock, struggling against Wilbur's grip as Wilbur tried to push him off the couch. Phil! Techno, help me! Tommy yelled.
Techno stared at the two fighting for a beat before snorting and looking back at his potatoes. Phil just shrugged and left the room, ignoring Tommy's pleas for mercy as Wilbur pinned Tommy down, laughing all the while. In the end, Tommy may have accidentally elbowed Wilbur in the face and gave him a bloody nose, but it was his own fault for being a dick. Though, of course, Tommy ended up healing it for Wilbur, despite Wilbur's protest that it was just a little bit of blood. That night, Tommy texted Puppy to tell her he was going to come into work for the next day. After she checked to make sure it was alright with the Syndicate, she seemed very relieved at the idea of having Tommy back at work, and Tommy couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt for being gone for so long, even though he knew it wasn't his fault. Surprisingly, Tubbo and Rambu seemed fine with the plan for Tommy to go back to work, as long as Wilbur was there the whole time. As it turned out, with Dream having been off the radar since Tommy's rescue, petty crime was spiking, especially in Eastside. This meant Tubbo and Rambu were even busier than usual, so they were going to be patrolling again the next night.
Part of Tommy didn't like the idea of them out patrolling while he was stuck in a meeting with the Syndicate. But at the same time, he knew that if the worst happened and one of them got hurt, it would probably be better to be with the Syndicate so they could drive him to wherever Tubbo and Rambu were, since the cafe was kind of unusable as a clinic now, considering Dream could ambush them at any moment there. So the next day passed with Tommy lounging around the house like he had been for the past few days, but this time with excitement running through his veins at actually getting to go do something again. Sure, it was work, but considering how unbelievably bored he was, he'd take just about anything. When late afternoon rolled around, Techno drove Wilbur and Tommy to the cloudy cafe. Walking in, Tommy hesitated for just a beat by the front door, remembering the bone-chilling fear that had run through him when he walked out those doors and found himself face to face with Dream. But then Wilbur placed a hand on his shoulder, and Tommy reminded himself that he was safe, that Wilbur was going to watch out for him, and things would be fine.
As soon as the two of them made their way through the doors, there was an unholy shriek of joy from behind the coffee bar. "Tommy!" Foolish yelled, nearly jumping over the bar to run towards him. Tommy grunted in surprise as the man wrapped him up in a tight hug, and for a brief moment, Tommy wondered if Puppy had told Foolish the truth about what had happened. Then, "Oh, thank God you're back," Foolish giggled, practically dropping all his weight onto Tommy. "I'm never gonna shit-talk the way you organize the bar again. I literally can't keep doing your shifts, man."
Tommy blinked, stiffly hugging Foolish back. Sorry? You're forgiven, as long as you never leave me to cover all your shifts again, Foolish said, taking another beat before pulling himself back from the hug. Now getting a proper look at Foolish, it was easy to see that he was probably on the verge of collapsing from exhaustion. There were dark circles under his eyes, and he was swaying on his feet the longer he stared at Tommy with the manic smile on his face. While Tommy was sure Puffy had probably taken a few shifts herself to cover, it was clear that Foolish had gotten the majority of the work thrust onto him, and Tommy wouldn't wish that on anyone, not even Dream. Don't worry, I just, really got really fucking sick, but I'm all good to work now, Tommy reassured him, awkwardly patting his arm.
Foolish smiled and nodded at this, although his eyes were glazed over in a way that told Tommy he was nearly asleep on his feet. Okay, cool, great. You do that, and I'm gonna go pass out for the next 18 hours, he told Tommy, taking it off his apron and shoving it into Tommy's arms. Before Tommy could respond, Foolish stumbled away from him and Wilbur and out of the cafe doors. Both Tommy and Wilbur silently watched Foolish from the windows until he disappeared around the corner, leaving Tommy back in control of the cafe. Is he okay? Wilbur asked with a frown. I don't think so, Tommy replied.
There was a beat of silence between them. Then, Tommy unfolded the apron and pulled it over his head. All right, well, I should get to work. You, go sit somewhere and don't bug me. Wilbur smirked. But bugging you at work is how we became friends in the first place. Tommy narrowed his eyes. I'll spit in your coffee.
No, you won't. You're too nice, Wilbur teased, flicking Tommy's forehead. While Tommy wanted to argue, he knew Wilbur was right, and that Tommy wouldn't go that far because that was just gross. Fuck off, Tommy grumbled as he made his way back behind the coffee bar. Wilbur, in all his bitchy glory, sauntered up to the counter and rested his elbows in front of the register. Let me be your first customer of the day.
Ugh, fine. What do you want? Flat white, Wilbur told him. Rolling his eyes, Tommy rang him up and watched as Wilbur went over to his usual table in the corner. It was strange. Despite so much having changed, there was so much familiarity in this routine. Bickering with Wilbur during his shifts. Trying to figure out what ways to fuck with him to make his job more entertaining. So much was different now. But in a way, it was like nothing had happened at all. It was so easy to fall back and do his work. Tommy barely thought as he pulled the espresso shots and grabbed a bottle of caramel, fully intending to not make Wilbur the drink he ordered just to fuck with him. Late afternoon, sun streamed through the large windows of the cafe, once again bathing everything in gorgeous shades of gold and orange. The smell of roasting coffee beans filled the air, and Tommy's shoulders slumped as he took a moment to close his eyes and just breathe in his work.
A few minutes later, Tommy was sliding Wilbur's cup onto the pickup bar. He called out Wilbur's name, and Wilbur smirked as he sauntered back over to the bar to grab the drink. When Wilbur picked the cup up, he huffed at the words written on the side. Pussy boy? Really? Wilbur asked, raising an eyebrow at him. If that's what you are, Tommy shrugged, trying to keep his expression neutral as Wilbur took his first sip of the drink.
As expected, Wilbur instantly frowned at the taste. What? Is this a caramel macchiato? Yep, Tommy answered, popping the pea. You brat! Wilbur exclaimed, scowling at him. You know I think caramel macchiatos are way too sweet. Shouldn't have put me in that headlock yesterday, Tommy told him, struggling to stifle his laughter.
Wilbur's scowl deepened. Make me my proper drink. Nope! Maybe if you're nice to me, I'll make you the right drink later tonight, Tommy teased, flipping him off as he went to go help a customer waiting at the register. Huffing, Wilbur stalked back over to his table, and Tommy was pretty sure he had heard him mumble fucking gremlin under his breath as he reluctantly sipped at his coffee. And just like that, Tommy was back on the clock. An hour and a half passed with nothing very noteworthy happening. Customers filed in, Tommy made coffee, the espresso machine took a shit, and Tommy spent 10 minutes cussing at it until he managed to get it working again. And Wilbur worked on his laptop the entire time.
The yellow light of the setting sun turned darker and darker until it disappeared completely. Night was falling earlier now that it was getting close to winter, and Tommy had to admit he was grateful he wasn't going to have to walk to the subway in the chilly air tonight. Then there was the sound of a chiming door, and Tommy's attention was pulled to the front as two customers made their way to the register. It was a man and a woman, and Tommy realized he recognized the woman, with her cotton candy pink hair, razor-sharp eyeliner, and her kind smile. Tommy thought back to a time she'd stopped by and tipped him far more than she needed to. The man with her was unfamiliar, albeit rather nondescript, with the only noticeable thing about him being his shaved head. Putting on his customer service grin, Tommy greeted them as they came up to the counter.
Welcome to the Cloudy Cafe. What can I get you? I think I'll have a small mocha, the woman told him, something warm flashing in her eyes. And I'll have one of those blended caramel coffee things, the guy chimed in, gesturing vaguely to the menu. Tommy frowned. You mean the You mean the caramel frappe?
Yep, that thing. The guy nodded. Shrugging, Tommy wrote down the drinks on the cups before meeting the woman's eyes. Whoa, Tommy wrote down the drinks on the cups before meeting the woman's eyes again. All right, name? The woman met his eyes steadily, a grin tugging at the corners of her lips. Nikki.
Nodding, Tommy started to write the name down on the cup, but froze before he'd even gotten to the K. Nikki. Nikki was Nemesis's real name. This girl had the same cotton candy hair that Nemesis did. She was the same height and build as the villain as well.
As the realization dawned on Tommy's face, Nikki let her warm grin take over her face. It's good to see you again, Tommy, she said softly. Holy shit, Tommy whispered. This was Nemesis.
Without even thinking about it, Tommy rushed around the counter and Nikki immediately pulled him into a hug. He laughed as he bent down to hug her properly, and he felt her own laughter dance through her shoulders as he squeezed her tight. They stayed like that for a few moments. Tommy too shocked to even think of what Nemesis just casually identity revealing to him implied, before the two of them were interrupted by a cough. Glancing up, Tommy saw the guy with the shaved head smirking at him. Hey up, mate, the guy said.
Oh, Tommy was fucking stupid! Both of you are here? Tommy asked, letting go of Nikki to give Thanatos a hug. Of course we are. We wanted to come by to see if you were okay, Nikki explained. Name's Jack, by the way. Jack told him, patting his shoulder a few times before pulling away from the hug. It's really good to see you again, man.
Nemesis and Thanatos, Nikki and Jack. Such normal names for the two villains that were the entire reason he actually decided to start helping the Syndicate willingly. Fucking hell, it's good to see you guys too. Tommy laughed, and it was good to see them. Beside the Soots, Nemesis and Thanatos had been the closest to being his friends out of the rest of the Syndicate. It was just surprisingly nice to see them here. But then, the full realization hit Tommy.
Wait, why the fuck did you just reveal your faces to me? Tommy asked, frowning at them. Isn't that breaking the Syndicate rules? Before either of them could respond, though, another voice joined in the fray. Well. Looks like you guys were too impatient to wait for tonight. Wilbur chuckled as he walked up to the counter. Nikki at least seemed a bit sheepish. Come on, can you blame us? You and Phil and Tech haven't told us anything about how he's doing.
I told you he was fine, Wilbur argued. Yeah, but nothing else, Nikki said, shooting Wilbur a pointed look. Besides, you got to reveal all dramatically to him right before he passed out, so you can't say shit. Jack nodded. Plus, we were both craving coffee, so we figured why not. Wilbur huffed. I mean, you know I don't actually give a shit. But Phil and Techno are super strict on that stuff. Tommy listened to the conversation going on, a few more puzzle pieces falling into place.
Wait, so you guys all know each other's identities? Tommy asked, lowering his voice to make sure no one else in the cafe could hear, despite the fact that no one was paying attention to them. We do. Wilbur nodded. You were the only one we kept out of the loop. Everyone else already knew each other's names and faces. But it's probably best for us not to go into it here, Nikki pointed out, glancing around the cafe. We'll be able to talk more about it tonight. Tommy raised his eyebrows. Wait, so are all of you guys gonna...
That should be the plan, unless Phil changes his mind, Wilbur answered before he even finished. But since now you know who 5 out of the 8 are, I don't think Phil would go back now. Holy shit! Tommy was going to learn everyone's identities in the Syndicate tonight. Is that even safe? Tommy asked, thinking back to 404. The worst has already happened, and we're not going to let you-know-who get his hands on you again, Wilbur told him, brown eyes meeting blue. You deserve to know after everything you've been through.
Fuck. They really trusted him that much. If anyone asked Tommy if that made him a bit choked up, he would say that was ridiculous to even ask because he was a big man who didn't get choked up at silly shit like that. But, well, if he quickly excused himself from the conversation to make Nikki and Jack's drinks because his vision was getting a little blurry, well, that was none of their business. After he made Nikki and Jack their drinks, they went to sit at Wilbur's table, and the three fell into a hushed conversation Tommy couldn't make out from the coffee bar. Another few hours passed without much fanfare, and it wasn't long before Nicky and Jack had to head out. They both promised they'd see him in a few hours, though, and Tommy waved them out while fighting to contain his bright smile. Soon, customers started filtering out of the shop. Laptops were closed, empty cups were tossed in trash cans, and it wasn't long before Wilbur was the only one left in the cafe.
At one point, Tommy slid out another hot coffee cup onto the pickup bar. "Bitch boy, come get your flat white," Tommy yelled across the shop as he began to wipe down the counters. Wilbur laughed as he grabbed his drink, giving Tommy a wry smile when he met his gaze. "Oh, did the child feel bad for being mean to Big Brother Wilby?" he teased. Tommy blinked, fighting the sudden urge he had to smack Wilbur in the face. "I will dump that coffee on your stupid fucking head if you don't shut up."
Sure you will. You'll dump the drink you just spent time making on a floor that you'd have to clean. Wilbur cut himself off with a yelp when Tommy lunged across the counter, trying to make a grab for the cup. You're a fucking feral raccoon, I swear to God. I'll bite you, Tommy threatened. You know, I don't think I doubt that anymore, Wilbur snorted. After that, Tommy finished cleaning up the rest of the cafe, and Wilbur waited by the door like he had so many times in the past. This time, though, he wasn't scrolling through his phone like he usually did while he waited for Tommy to finish up. Instead, his eyes were locked on the windows, watching like a sentry for any sign of movement outside.
Right when Tommy was headed towards the door, a sleek, black SUV pulled up in front of the cafe, which Tommy recognized as the same one they took when he went to the first Syndicate meeting. Wilbur kept an arm around his shoulders as Tommy locked the doors to the cafe. Tommy leaned into him, his heart beating a little louder in his chest than usual at being outside the cafe in the middle of the night, just like before. They went straight to the SUV, though, and Tommy didn't see any sign of Dreamer 404. When they climbed in, Tommy saw Techno was driving again, with Phil sitting up front, meaning Wilbur had to sit in the back with him. The two of them were already decked out in their villain outfits, and after Tommy and Wilbur had settled themselves in the back seat, Phil tossed a bundle of clothes at Wilbur's face. "You can get changed when we get there, Will," Phil said. His voice changer turned off for the time being.
Despite the fact that Tommy obviously knew Phil was Zephyrus, it was still disconcerting to hear his voice come out from under Zephyrus's veil. This was definitely going to take a bit to get used to, Tommy could tell. Couldn't have let me just change in the bathroom of the cafe? Wilbur asked, frowning at the front seat. I don't know about you, but I'd rather not see a news report about Siren walking out of a well-beloved cafe in Eastside, Techno deadpanned, making Tommy snort. Who knows? Maybe I'll just tell the news that Siren loves my coffee, Tommy joked. Imagine if you just came into the cafe in the full getup, Will. How do you think my customers would react to that?
That's probably not something we want to deal with. So let's not talk about making the Cloudy Cafe a regular haunt for Siren. Phil cut in. Anyway, Tommy, how was work? Tommy shrugged, slumping back into his seat. It was fine. Wilbur snorted. Fine? You're not going to mention the fact that you learned Nemesis and Thanatos' real names? Tommy shot Wilbur a flat stare. Well, I didn't know if it was okay to tell Phil about that or not.
Wait, you met Nicky and Jack in their civilian forms? Phil questioned, twisting around in his seat to actually look at Tommy. He did, yeah. They basically just went up to the register to order their drinks and told him outright. Wilbur laughed. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal since that was gonna happen tonight anyway. The two of them just wanted to see him and make sure he was okay. But they won't get in trouble, right? Tommy asked, furrowing his brows. Because I don't want them to get in trouble because of me. Phil chuckled. No, don't worry. I'm not gonna scold Nemesis and Thanatos because they wanted to properly introduce themselves to you before everyone else could.
Okay, that's good, Tommy murmured, leaning against the window and watching the street lamps blur into one streak of orange light. The rest of the drive was quiet after that. Tommy waited for them to get closer to the Syndicate compound, to the point where they would blindfold him again. But it never came. They crossed through South Bay and further up until they were nearing the middle of the city, with the buildings changing from nice townhouses to actual skyscrapers. It wasn't until they pulled into the parking garage of a nondescript office building that Tommy realized they weren't going to blindfold him at all. There was the steep incline Tommy had remembered, making him feel sick with the blindfold on. The underground parking structure was dark, only lit up very few spaces with harsh white light, making the entire place feel very eerie. There were no cars in any of the parking spots either, with everyone who worked in that building clearly having gone home for the day. The car drove down deeper and deeper into the parking garage until they were at the bottom level. Then, Techno pulled the SUV into a random empty spot and cut the engine.
"We're here," Techno announced. "So, there's really no blindfold this time?" Tommy asked, glancing between the three of them. "No, no blindfold this time," Phil reassured him, lifting up his veil to flash Tommy a reassuring smile. Nodding, Tommy hopped out of the car, his shoes smacking against the concrete as Techno and Phil did the same. Wilbur didn't get out of the car, though, and it took a moment for him to realize that when Phil said Wilbur could change into his siren clothes when they got there, he meant change in the car.
It was pretty funny to listen to Wilbur struggle to change in the narrow confines of the back seat of the car. There was a lot of grunting, swearing, and at one point a foot smacked against the window. But then, finally, Siren climbed out of the SUV, donning his black coat, dark jeans, heavy boots, and his signature blindfold. "I hate changing in that car, you know that, Techno," Wilbur hissed as soon as he was on his feet again. Techno locking the car as Phil led them down towards an elevator near the wall. "Wouldn't be such a problem if you didn't decide skinny jeans just had to be part of your supervillain wardrobe," Techno shot back with a smirk. Wilbur scoffed. "It's about having a cohesive look. Besides, I'm not one to do a whole bunch of physical fighting, so the jeans work out fine unless I need to change in the backseat of a fucking car."
"By the way, I've always wanted to ask," Tommy suddenly chimed in, shoving his way between the two brothers. "How the fuck do you even see out of that mask?" "Oh, it's got like dark mesh around the eyes, while the rest is just solid fabric. But it's hidden well, so you can't really see the mesh from the outside," Wilbur explained. "I used to put dark makeup around my eyes to kind of hide them even more behind all the black, but eventually I got lazy, so I stopped doing it." "You mean I called you an emo and you got mad?" Techno huffed. Phil snickered at this comment, but didn't say anything as he pressed the button for the elevator. "I did not stop just because you called me an emo," Wilbur protested, punching Techno in the arm. "Besides, it's not emo to try and wear makeup that helps conceal my goddamn identity."
"Sure," Techno drawled. "Keep telling yourself that while you walk around in Doc Martens and a black trench coat." Wilbur let out an indignant noise as the elevator chimed, signaling its arrival. The four of them all piled into the small metal box, with Phil pressing the B10 button before beginning their descent down. The elevator jolted as it moved deeper and deeper underground. Once again, Tommy wondered if this whole building was used for Syndicate stuff, or if they just rented out this one underground office for their dramatic villain meetings. Once the elevator stopped, the doors opened to reveal the same plain, undecorated hallway that led straight to the double doors of the meeting room. Now, out of the elevator, Phil rolled his shoulders to manifest his wings, having had them hidden during the car ride.
Manifest. The double doors to the Syndicate room were no less impressive than they were the first time Tommy saw them. The intricate carvings were just as stunning as he remembered them, and Tommy made a mental note to ask at some point, who the fuck did the interior decorating for the Syndicate? When Phil opened the doors to the meeting room and led them inside, Tommy was met with the waiting faces of all the other Syndicate members he'd come to know so well. Daedalus, Jester, Rosethorn, Nemesis, and Thanatos had already taken their seats. Phil took his place at the head of the table, with Techno sitting at the other end. Wilbur and him sat in the same seats they had before, and despite the fact that Tommy knew the Syndicate far better than he did the first time he'd been here, he couldn't ignore the nerves buzzing in his chest. As soon as everyone was settled, Phil wasted no time in jumping right into things.
"Hey guys, glad you can make it in such short notice," Phil said, folding his hands in front of him. "As you all know, tonight we're welcoming Tommy in as a full member of the Syndicate." Tommy's eyes widened. "Wait, I'm what?" All eyes in the room suddenly turned to him. "Phil, did you forget to tell the fucking kid that he was going to be a Syndicate member?" Jester asked, his feet resting up on the table.
"What? No, I didn't forget. I told you yesterday, Tommy," Phil said, lifting his veil so he could meet his eyes. "I said we were going to tell you everything." "Okay, but how was I supposed to know that meant I'd be an official member of the Syndicate?" Tommy asked, his heart pounding in his ears. Phil's brows furrowed. "I mean, I thought it was obvious. You already worked for us, so this is just the next step." He paused then, something worried flashing over his gaze. "Do you not want to be a member of the Syndicate, Tommy?" The question was gentle. There was no pressure or judgment in Phil's voice, just genuine concern. But even still, Tommy couldn't help but shrink back in his chair as all the eyes in the room stayed squarely on him.
It wasn't that he didn't want to be a member of the Syndicate. Phil was right in saying that he basically already was. This would just be making it official. But if Tommy agreed to this, he can no longer say he was just a civilian. He would officially be a villain, or at least in the city's eyes, he would be. Either way, he'd be choosing to fully join this world that he had tried so hard to stay out of. Suddenly, there was a warm hand on his shoulder. Wilbur had pulled up his mask and was staring at him with worried eyes. "Are you okay?" he whispered.
Tommy stared at Wilbur, trying to think if he was okay or not. While he was definitely shocked, he knew that he was already in this world. Hell, he'd already been kidnapped by a hero. Tommy had lost his civilian card long ago, and at this point he knew full well that there was no way to get it back. Besides, his family was here, weren't they? He'd chosen this as his family. And when he told Wilbur he didn't go back on that stuff, he meant it. Again, this was just making things official. "No, I wanted," Tommy said after a few beats of silence. "Sorry, just confused me for a second."
Relief washed over Phil's face as he nodded. "Okay, that's good to hear. Then we'll cast a vote. All those in favor of Tommy joining the Syndicate, raise your hands." Immediately, everyone at the table raised their hands. There wasn't an ounce of hesitation in anyone's eyes, and warmth bloomed in Tommy's chest at their trust. "All right then, that's settled. We'll need to come up with a code name for you at some point, Tommy, but for now, we have bigger things to focus on," Phil said, lifting the hat with his veil entirely off his head. "You all know the drill. Masks off." And just like that, with those simple words, everyone in the Syndicate took their masks off.
Techno rested his boar skull on the table. Wilbur shoved his blindfold in his pocket. Nikki sent her masquerade mask lightly on her lap. Jack moved his skull mask on top of his head. But these were the faces he already knew. There was a loud whirring sound as Daedalus pulled his mechanical mask off his face. His eyes faded from being entirely pitch black to having normal dark green irises. As Tommy took in his face, he realized he had definitely seen Daedalus before. "What? You came to the cafe!" Tommy exclaimed. "You brought your dog to see me!" Daedalus laughed and nodded. "Yep, Fran really likes you. You gave her whipped cream once, and you earned her undying loyalty."
Wow. Tommy really shouldn't be surprised considering Daedalus literally told him he'd been to the cafe before. But it was still strange to think about it in retrospect. "I'm Sam, by the way," Daedalus introduced himself. Sam. What a boring name for such a badass guy. "Nice to meet you, Sam," Tommy snorted. "Nice to meet you too, Tommy."
Then there was a pointed cough to Sam's left, and Tommy's eyes fell on another familiar face. "Hannah?" Tommy asked, recognizing the waitress from Bad Steiner. "You're a villain?" "Yep, sure am." Hannah grinned. "What? Techno?" Hannah. Playing with, I'm just obsessed with techno, man.
Whoa.
I see every word and I see techno. playing with her tree bark mask in her hands. Let me tell you, it was so fucking hard to keep a straight face every time you and Wilbur came in for dinner. "Sorry about that, Hannah, but he wanted muffins, and it's not like I could just say no," Wilbur defended.
Hannah raised an eyebrow. "Still a dick move, Soot," she teased. "But it's nice to properly meet you, Tommy." "You too," Tommy chuckled, leaning back further in his seat. This only left one person in the room Tommy didn't know. He turned his head to the left and found himself staring into a young man's face with a jagged scar going through his left eye.
"I fucking knew it," Tommy whispered, meeting Jester's eyes. "I knew that was your real face." Jester chuckled. "I could see it in your eyes that you knew I was bullshitting you with the whole, "Oh, it's a random stranger off the street." Truth is, I was just too fucking tired to put on a different face, and I knew I could trust you at this point, so I figured it was fine. Tommy grinned. "Well, tell me your name then." "Call me Quackity," he told Tommy, grinning wide enough to show a gold tooth he had embedded under where the scar went through his eye.
"Wait, did Quackity already show you his face?" Techno asked, frowning as he looked between the two of them. "Technically, yeah," Quackity snorted. "Can't trust any of you little shits," Phil muttered, although his voice was fond as he shook his head. For those who don't know, apparently Nikki and Jack took matters into their own hands and introduced themselves to Tommy earlier today. All the eyes then fell onto Jack and Nikki, both of whom were smirking in their seats.
"I say, we wanted coffee," Jack huffed. I can't believe Sam and I are the only ones who can keep a secret identity, Hannah muttered. Hey, I kept it a secret too. Tommy just guessed mine on his own, Wilbur protested. Like you weren't trying to get him to figure it out by being as obvious as possible.
Okay, boys, Phil said, cutting Techno off. I know you all like to... Lamau. I know you all like to bicker about stupid shit, but we actually have more business to attend to this meeting, so we should get on with it. Folding his hands in front of him again, Phil focused back on Tommy. Tommy, do you have any particular questions for us, or should we just start at the beginning? Tommy gulped as he tried to think of if he had any particular questions. There was just so much he felt he didn't know about the Syndicate. Trying to come up with a single question to encapsulate everything he was wondering about felt impossible. I mean, I guess I just want to know what the hell you're all even trying to do, Tommy said, bringing his knees up onto the chair. Phil nodded. That's a good place to start. To give you the short answer, our goal is to destroy the institution of the Hero Committee and get rid of the entire system of the government-sanctioned heroes.
And to take down the government and establish an anarchical society in its place, Techno chimed in. Well, yes, that too, but that part comes later, Phil said, dipping his head at Techno. Our primary focus is the Hero Committee. Tommy blinked, wondering if he heard that right. Oh, yeah, so nothing too big or anything, he drawled sarcastically, mind reeling at how insane that sounded. I know, it seemed like a lot to take on, but the captain was the last bastion of any kind of good that existed in the hero system, Phil explained, leaning back in his seat. She was the last hope we had in possibly reforming things. Now we aim to take the system down entirely, because it's far too corrupt to try and fix.
The idea of paying people with most powerful abilities in the city to play cops, but with even less restrictions, is just a recipe for disaster, Techno added, folding his arms over his chest. Well, I mean, I guess that makes sense, Tommy muttered, glancing at the table. But you want to take down the government too? Both Wilbur and Techno answered at the same time. Not necessarily.
Yes. The two brothers gave each other an incredulous look, and Tommy would have laughed if it wasn't still struggling to process everything they were saying. Wilbur, Techno started, staring intensely at his younger brother. You know we've talked about this. Please don't get us into this fucking argument again, Quackity groaned, dragging his hands down his face.
Tommy frowned, looking between all the tired faces of the different Syndicate members. He had a feeling this had been a conversation they had gone through several times before. Can someone tell me what I'm missing here? He asked. We have different ideas on what our next steps will be after the Hero Committee is gone, Sam cut in to explain, much to Tommy's relief. Phil, Techno, and Nikki are anarchists and want to take down the government entirely. Wilbur, Jack, Hannah, and myself are more on the side of government reform. And I don't really give a shit either way, as long as I can keep running my business, Quackity said, folding his arms behind his head.
But we're going to cross that bridge when we get to it, Phil said, giving Tommy a reassuring smile. Although I would prefer anarchy, I'm not completely against the idea of government reform myself. I am. But either way, none of this is relevant until we first take down the Hero Committee, Phil continued, ignoring Techno's interruption. Huh. Okay. Well, Tommy already knew Techno was an anarchist, considering he had rambled to Tommy about anarchist theory multiple times, but he hadn't realized Phil and Nikki were anarchists as well.
In truth, Tommy didn't really understand much about anarchism, so it wasn't like he had a super strong opinion on the subject. So he decided not to comment on that, and figured he could learn more about it when he actually became more relevant to the Syndicate's goals, which at the moment it didn't seem like it was. Alright, focus on the Hero Committee first, I get that, Tommy muttered, nodding to himself. He looked up to meet Phil's eyes again as another question appeared in his mind. How did all this start in the first place, though? I feel like I just woke up one day and the Syndicate was all over the news. How did I come to create the Syndicate in the first place? Phil asked. Tommy nodded and Phil took a breath. Well, that's gonna require a bit of backstory. Tugging his hair out of his ponytail, Phil ran his hands through his hair before taking a breath and straightening up. When I first started out as a villain, I didn't have any goals to destroy the Hero Committee or take down the government or any of that shit. The truth is that I was a single dad who unexpectedly ended up with 2 kids in a very short amount of time, and money became way more of a problem than I thought it would be, Phil explained. looking between Wilbur and Techno before returning his gaze to Tommy. I didn't necessarily want to turn to crime, but I'd already had my issues with the way the heroes ignored the poorest neighborhoods, so it was easy to decide that if I needed to rob a bank to make sure my boys get to eat dinner, then I was going to rob a bank.
Pausing, Phil's expression darkened. It didn't take long for me to learn the truth. Or it didn't take long for me to learn the truth about the way the Hero Committee dealt with villains, and how they manipulated the media in their favor. It wasn't as bad as it is now, but the only hero who was working at this time that I think you would have even heard of is the captain. But it was still pretty damn corrupt. When I realized this, I got fucking pissed. The entire system that was put in place to protect L'Manberg's citizens was a lie, and the only people who knew the truth about it were the villains. Tommy leaned forward in his seat when Phil took another pause, enraptured by the story. Still, I was a pretty minor villain for my first 5 years or so. I just did what I had to take care of my kids. I didn't want to get involved in anything too intense, because the last thing I wanted was for Will and Tech to get caught up in this shit. Little did you know, we knew the whole time what you were doing. Wilbur cut in, smirking a bit. You weren't subtle about it, Dad. Like, at all.
I tried my best, okay? Phil huffed, grinning sheepishly. Well, you sucked at it, old man. Techno teased. But yeah, Will and I knew the whole time that Phil was a villain. So when we thought we were old enough, we decided we wanted to help him out. I still remember the first time you two brats showed up during a fight because you followed me. Phil mumbled, dragging a hand down his face. Gave me about 20 fucking heart attacks that night. But it was worth it because we proved our point, Wilbur said. We proved to you we could help and let us join you, and you let us join you.
Only because I knew you two would just start sneaking out to do shit on your own if I said no. I wanted to at least be able to keep an eye on you, Phil argued. But yeah, basically when Wilbur was around 18 and Techno was 19, the two of them decided they wanted to be villains too, and wouldn't take no for an answer. So the three of us formed our little group, and together we could actually accomplish a lot more than what I was able to do on my own. Also, I, unlike Phil, who had just been an edgy lone wolf up until then, actually started talking to other villains we ran into. Wilbur cut in, smiling proudly, and I found out that the others actually thought a lot of the same things we did about the Hero Committee. Does it really count when you literally mentored one of our only two allies at that point? Techno asked, raising an eyebrow at Wilbur. You're the one who taught Fundy to hate the Hero Committee just as much as we did. Wilbur rolled his eyes. He was gonna hate them anyway. I just happened to run into him during his first attempt at robbing a place.
Wait, did Wilbur just say Fundy? You mean to tell me the fucking fried chicken food truck guy is a villain? Tommy asked, shooting Wilbur a confused look. He was a villain, went by the name Vulpus, because he was a sneaky little shit who would turn invisible. He later retired and now has the food truck you and I love so much, Wilbur explained, nudging Tommy's shoulder. Faintly, Tommy remembered hearing one or two things about a villain called Vulpus, although he couldn't recall much. Having the power to turn invisible is probably what kept him under the radar, though Tommy would probably try to Google stuff on him when he got home.
But why did you retire? Tommy asked, figuring he must not have been a villain for very long since his food truck seemed rather well established. At this, a hush fell over the table as everyone's smiles disappeared, as if a candle had been blown out and darkness had descended. There was a tense silence, and the group shared knowing looks with one another, with even Quackity looking serious for the first time all night. Have you ever heard of the villain H94, Tommy? Phil asked after a few beats of silence. Tommy frowned, trying to think if he could remember anything about H94. There was some faint flicker of memory there, but it was barely anything substantial.
I've heard the name, but not much else, Tommy answered. Well, his real name was H-Bomb, and besides me, Will, and Techno, he was the first official member of the Syndicate, Phil explained, staring at the table as he spoke. He was a kind man who had been put in a similar position as myself, where he became a villain to survive. He agreed with us about the unfairness of the Hero Committee, so we agreed to start working together to find a way to take them down. Tommy noticed how they were only referring to H-Bomb in the past tense, and dread began to pull in his gut. What happened to him? Tommy whispered.
Dream happened, Techno said, clenching his jaw. Me, H-Bomb, and Phil were in a fight against Dream, Flame, and the Captain. At the time, Dream and Flame were both still newbies on the scene, and we weren't really sure what either of them were capable of. All we knew was that Dream was being mentored by the Captain. We hardly knew anything about Flame, but the Captain was someone we were familiar with, and she had always been one of those only good heroes in the system. So we trusted she'd keep her new kid in line. From there, Phil picked up the story. That wasn't what happened, though. The fight got rough. Techno was fighting the Captain, while Dream seemed like he was still struggling a bit with using his powers. And when H-Bomb went for Flame, well, Dream killed him. Distantly, Tommy remembered what Nikki had told him all those months ago when he was first healing Jack.
Are you saying that heroes have killed villains before? Yes, they have, and if you hadn't saved Iceman, he would have been another death they covered up. And then, what Puffy had told him less than a week ago. I tried to stop it, but soon he was dead, and when I reported the hero responsible to the committee, they just didn't do anything.
The hero committee covered it up, didn't they? Tommy asked in a horrified whisper. Phil nodded. After it happened, Puffy stopped the fight and apologized for what happened. She also promised to make sure that Dream received proper punishment, and that if he didn't, she would stop working for the heroes. So, that's why she retired, Tommy finished, nodding to himself. Because nothing happened when Dream killed H-Bomb. Exactly. Fundy ended up retiring not long after because it scared him so badly, Phil finished, looking pained. And that was when I knew I had to do whatever I could to take that organization down.
Bile rose in the back of Tommy's throat. He'd been told that heroes had killed villains before, but to see how much pain the Syndicate was in because of the friend they lost, to hear his name and know that Dream was the one responsible. Tommy was starting to understand why Wilbur said he wouldn't be able to promise Tommy he wouldn't kill again. H-Brom was my best friend, Nikki then chimed in, her voice softer than usual but echoing in the room all the same. He was the one who introduced me to Wilbur, Techno, and Phil in the first place. I wasn't involved in any of the vigilante hero stuff, but I knew who H-Bomb and his friends were. I understand why they did what they did. She kept her eyes on the table and a scowl flashed across her face. When Techno called me to tell me what happened, though, I realized I couldn't just sit on the sidelines and wait for this to happen to more people. The system was bullshit, and I wanted to play my part in taking it down just like the rest of them. Nikki continued, her voice still quiet, yet razor sharp at the same time. So after I met Jack and we got our footing as a duo, I contacted Wilbur again and asked if we could join the Syndicate, which is how we ended up here.
From there, our numbers just grew. Phil picked up. After H-Bomb's death and the loss of Fundy, it was just back to me, Will, and Tech. But then Nikki and Jack joined, and then about a year later, Quackity contacted us about making a business deal. Then, well, I started talking to Sam. Oh yeah, Tommy frowned. How did that whole thing happen anyway, with Sam switching sides? At this, Sam cleared his throat, drawing all eyes in the room. Well, the story is kind of simple, in all honesty. The gist of it was that Phil just started talking to me during our fights. He just pointed out a lot of the flaws in the system and how unfair it all was. And then it got me to start really think about what I was doing. Truth be told, I didn't think that would work at all, Phil said, chuckling a bit. I was just saying shit to distract him. Had no clue Sam was actually listening to me.
It worked out in the end because I actually did pay attention, Sam replied. I just started noticing all these problems and how we as heroes rarely ever got punished for our actions. And I'd known the captain. She and I had been friends before she retired, so I'd heard her complaints plenty of times before then too, but I never took them to heart. But I guess what really changed things for me was when Dream made the building collapse, and the hero committee barely did anything to punish him. Sighing, Sam took a beat to push his dark green hair out of his face. I know it was an accident, but he was supposed to be grounded from hero duty, and then the committee pulled him out the second they had an excuse. That was really the moment where I saw that the organization didn't really care about keeping its heroes in check as long as funding kept rolling in. So when I next found myself and my fellow heroes in a fight against Phil, Wilbur, and Techno, and Phil started asking me again why I was doing this, I just couldn't find a good answer. So I left. You left mid-fight? Tommy asked.
I did, yeah. I decided I wanted out, so I tried to just flee down a nearby alley, but I had a run-in with Supreme. Sam said, dropping his eyes to the table as his lips twisted into something pained. Tommy thought back to all the news reports when Warden had first deserted the heroes. How there were rumors about how Warden had viciously attacked his own healer without warning. Looking at Sam now, Tommy could see none of the bloodlust that the media claimed Warden had been holding inside of him. He could only see regret and guilt. So much guilt. Tommy could see from his eyes that it was practically drowning him. I didn't mean to hurt him, Sam admitted, his voice barely more than a whisper as he wrung his hands together. I ran into him in the alley when I was just trying to leave, and when he figured out what I was doing, he tried to get me to stop. We got into an argument, and I swung my trident out, but not with the intent to hurt him. I just wanted to make it like a warning, to get him to back off, but then he... Sam's breathing hitched as he grimaced, as if just remembering the story was almost too painful for him. I think he was just trying to move towards me, not to attack. I know he wouldn't do that. I'm not sure what he was doing, but he came toward me, and when I wasn't expecting it, my trident just...
He cut himself off, and Phil leaned over to rest a hand on his shoulder. It's okay, Sam. I think he gets it. Nodding, Sam took a breath to steady himself. I was horrified by what had happened, but Dream showed up in the alley right at that moment, and I knew Supreme could heal himself, so I just decided I had to get away from him. I ran out and rejoined the fight, but this time I fought with Phil and the others. When they decided it was time to flee, they took me with them, and I've been a member of the Syndicate ever since. Sam finished, his shoulders slumping as he stopped wringing his hands. Tommy let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. That was a lot. The media had made Warden's betrayal sound so much more spiteful than it was. Instead of the hero suddenly getting a taste for blood and wanting to kill his fellow heroes, he just wanted to leave, and ended up having to fight his way out.
Jesus fucking Christ, man, Tommy muttered. That's rough. It's alright. I know that leaving was still the right thing to do, even if I didn't go about it in the best way. Sam shrugged, the mechanical arms behind his head shrugging as well. But yeah, that's how I ended up joining. And then he recruited me a year later, Hannah announced proudly, cutting through the tension with a cheerful smile. My situation was pretty simple. I worked as a vigilante because I thought heroes were bullshit. I ran into Sam a few times when I was on patrol, and he started talking to me about my motives and stuff. Then he eventually convinced me to become a villain and join the Syndicate. Convinced you? You practically begged to join, Sam said, looking less tense now as he shot a wry grin at Hannah.
Oh, shut up! No, I didn't! Hannah protested, punching him in the arm. You were the one begging me. You literally stabbed me at one point. Why would I beg you to join the Syndicate? Come on, don't be such a baby. It was one tiny little stab wound and you were fine, Hannah groaned, rolling her eyes. Please don't stab each other and give me more headaches to deal with, Tommy grumbled, running his hands through his hair.
There was a chorus of laughter at this, and Tommy felt a familiar arm slide around his shoulders. Don't worry, Toms. There'll be no unnecessary stabbing anymore, Wilbur reassured him, tugging his chair closer. Tommy huffed and elbowed Wilbur in the side to get him to let go, but the clingy bitch refused to move his arm. So Tommy sighed and leaned against his older brother in defeat. All right, so Tommy, do you have any more questions for us? Phil asked once the table had gone silent again.
I don't think so, Tommy shook his head. But I'll let you know if I think of anything. The truth was, well, Tommy probably would have more questions later on. He had already learned so much in a short span of time that he needed to take a break to process everything. He'd already learned how and why the Syndicate was formed, how each of the members joined, and he'd even learned about the death of H-94. If he got told any more stories, he was pretty sure his head was going to explode. Besides, he lived with Phil. If he got more questions later, he could just ask him there. Phil nodded. Sounds good. So I suppose this leaves us with our next order of business for the night. What to do about... The blaring of a ringing phone cut Phil off mid-sentence. There was an awkward pause as everyone glanced around the table to see whose phone it was, and it took Tommy an embarrassing long time to realize it was coming from him.
Cheeks flushing red, Tommy pulled his buzzing phone out of his pocket, wondering how the hell he even got service down here. When he saw it was Tubbo calling him, though, he paused, because he knew that Tubbo was supposed to be out patrolling tonight with Rambu. Shit. Wait, had they gotten hurt? Fuck, he needed to take this in case they were injured. Shit. Sorry, guys. I need to take this. Tommy coughed awkwardly, ignoring the villain's eyes on him as he pressed answer on the call. Hey, Tubbo, is everything okay? Fucking hell. We're fine, Tommy, but some bad shit just went down out here.
What's going on? Are you hurt? Oh, that was weird. No, we're not hurt at all. We weren't even in a fight or anything. Then what's wrong? Tommy asked, frowning. There was a pause on the other end.
We ran into Dream, Tubbo said quietly. He didn't do anything to us, but he told us to pass you a message. Tommy froze, his blood turning to ice in his veins. What was the message? He asked, struggling to keep his voice steady as his heart began to race in his chest. Tubbo took a shaky breath. I don't know how the fuck he did it, but I guess he finally got evidence of you healing Siren or something, Tubbo explained, his voice wavering. And he basically said that if you don't give him what he wants, he's going to have you arrested for aiding the Syndicate. What he wants. Tommy knew exactly what he wanted. There was only one reason he had even kidnapped Tommy in the first place. Dream wanted the identities of the Syndicate. And if he didn't get them, he was going to arrest Tommy. Oh, fuck me. Lamau.
Why can't they just be happy? Why can't they just be happy?
Because Bones and the Bees said no.
Well, chat.
Can we get some L's in the chat for H-bomb?
L's in the chat. Let's drop some L-bombs.
L-bomb! L-bomb!
L-bomb for H-bomb.
L-bomb for H-bomb.
I just want them to be happy.
Gosh.
I just want them to be happy. Why? Why can't they just be happy?
No happy.
I just want them to be happy. Yes, happy, please.
You ain't even freaking ready for, like, the next, like...
No, I'm not. So
like,
that's
the
why
ending
we're not
chapters.
That's why we're not gonna talk about it.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be so sad, like, the end, you know? Because we only got, like, what? Like, 2 more of these?
Yeah, 2 more. 2 more of the good old TOMMYINNITS Clinic for Supervillains. Because technically 2 chapters each. So, yeah. I forgot that Punk was Supreme. I had to, like, literally look it up. I was like, who is it? I don't know who it is. Yeah!
Like,
oh
guys,
my gosh.
come on. Fake TOMMYINNITS Clinic fans.
No. I haven't been reading it for 2 to 3 months at all. Totally not. Totally haven't. But I think, honestly, I think I'm going to end stream just because I'm a little bit tired. My voice is...
you have been going for like 2 hours.
I think that's probably the longest we've done this for. I think those were probably 2 of the longest chapters. Like, it was like 2 very long chapters back to back. There we go, Buccarino. I cannot say it right. Let's see. But, let's see. I think I'm going to try and find somebody to raid. But I will be right back. Okay? But thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for joining me. And
yeah, of course.
And I'm going to go cry now. Or I'll cry to you in VC after I raid. But I will talk to you in a bit.
KK.
Bye!
More.
Chat, how are we feeling after that? Because I'm not feeling great. I'm gonna go cry. Anyways, but chat, let me do a quick little thank yous. Let's see where let's see. I think the last person I thanked for the follows. Okay, I think, Moon's Crime, if you're still here, or any viewers of Moon's Crime, thank you so much for the raid. It means a lot to me. I'm sorry I couldn't thank you immediately after. Let's see. Yen10 Rod, I hope I said that right. Thank you so much for the follow. Stroke, I'm gonna just say Stroke. Thank you so much for the follow. Erony Love, thank you so much for the follow. And Skirt55, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you guys so much. And Leaf, thank you so much for the resub for 5 months. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. It was so good. I'm glad. I'm so glad. Yeah, I had the sound alerts off just because we were doing the reading. So yeah, I apologize about that. But trust me, I heard it on my side, so it was very funny. Thank you. I like to think that I'm funny. Okay, so I'm just kidding. But let's see who is live that we can go give some love to. Let's see. Let us see. Okay. So I haven't rated this for... Okay, it's going to be Valorant, okay? I know. But I think that'd be good to kind of go to. So we're going to be rating... let's see. We're gonna be rating Vensky. I think Vensky is I think they just hit 700, so let's go give them some love. Let's see. / raid Vensky. They are a mutual on the good old Clock app. And yeah, his curse of binding. Ooh. When Kate tells H-Bomb's backstory and just heard hello. Yeah, that kind of was like, oh, oopsies. Yeah, it did go off. Yeah. Anyways, guys, make sure you join the raid. Join the raid. Go give some love to Vens. Yeah. I'm sorry that I'm ending a little early. 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's so little. Oh my gosh. But go give some love to Vens. I'm going to be streaming again on Thursday, and then that's going to be my last stream for the next couple of days, okay? Because I do have some stuff that's going on this weekend that I really need to focus on. So, but I'll keep you updated, I guess. But yeah. Also, Vens is trying to get to 1K followers by June for a Teletubby IRL stream. So make sure you guys go give some love to Vens. Have a lovely day or night wherever you are, and I will see you in the next stream, which will be on Thursday. Possibly Minecraft, probably Arduous, so you guys can see that. But yeah, see you guys Thursday. Bye! Copy the raid message. Go, 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 go!